What's going on, everybody? What's going on? We got game day live streams again. I know the Lions aren't playing today, but I asked a lot of you the other day on the Lions' last game, and I asked if you guys would want to see some playoff games, and you guys said yes, pretty overwhelmingly. So we got some playoff games for you today. Today, I'm going to be doing the Bills versus the Colts, as you can obviously see on screen. That'll be the only one for today. I'll probably do one tomorrow as well if you guys would like to see it. I'll probably ask a couple times as people come in and out. But again, I want to do the Colts one today because I think this will be a fun matchup. I'm going to be rooting for the Colts in the playoffs most likely because that's just the team that I want to root for in the playoffs. Tomorrow, I want to do at least the Ravens versus the Titans. I think that'll be a very, very fun one. I might do the 405 one as well. Just have to see how that one goes. And then, obviously, as I tweeted out, if you guys saw that, I do want to have at least one playoff, or I do want to stream at least one game per round of the playoff, all the way from the wild card to the Super Bowl. So, if that's something you guys would be interested in, please let me know because I think it could be fun. I think it could be a fun way to bring in new people, have a fun way to bring in new fan bases, kind of introduce them to the channel, kind of get them going. And, I think it could be fun, kind of branch out, not just talk Lions, but talk NFL. Obviously, watch some good football for a change. The Bills just kicked off to the Indianapolis Colts. It went out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. So, as I said, I just think it could be a fun experience. I think it could be something a little bit new. Dr. Detroit says Bills, baby. Yes, sir. I'm rooting for the Bills today. If y'all saw my playoff prediction, I do got the Bills winning this game. So I actually have the Bills going to the Super Bowl. So if they lose in the wild card, that would be quite embarrassing. But I do think that the Bills are a very good football team. I think they're a very good franchise. I reached out to a couple of people, so they might be joining the stream. I'm not 100% sure. However, it is possible. It's always a chance that they might show up, but I cannot guarantee it. So let's see. Phillip Rivers' first pass to T.Y. Hilton for a 9-yard pickup. Not a horrible first start for the Colts. I can get the game sound on as we move a little closer. So, yeah, I think the playoffs should be very fun this year. There's a lot of very good teams, especially in the AFC. I think the AFC will be incredibly competitive this year. I think the worst team is the 7th ranked Colts, and they're still a 10-6 football team. So, or they're still an 11-5 football team. So, they're very, very good. The whole AFC is very competitive this year. I think the worst playoff team is a 5 or a 10-5 team. It should be very, very competitive, very fun to watch. And, I think there's a lot of different ways it can go. And for me, I can see a lot of different scenarios where a lot of different teams go far. I can see the Bills going far. I can see the Ravens going far. I can see the Titans going far. I can see pretty much everybody but the Colts to me. Sorry, Colts fans, but I don't see a lot with the Indianapolis Colts. I think they're a good team, but I think they're a tier below the rest. That doesn't mean they can't win today, of course. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given game day, any team can win any game. But, I think there's a realistic chance that obviously it's the playoffs, right? Anything can happen. Anything can happen in the playoffs. All you got to do is make it here, and it's a clean slate. Everybody's 0-0 at this point. It doesn't matter records and stats. They don't matter anymore. It's all about who wins the football game in the end. There's no more seeding. There's no more, backups. There's no more bad teams anymore. It's all good teams. It's all good football, and it should be very, very fun to watch for the next couple of days. So, yeah, Bills Mafia loud and proud, says the sign, as the Bills have a 3rd and 2 opportunity early in the football game to get a nice little stop. Michael Pittman in motion, going back across yet again. Hand off to Jonathan Taylor, and he weaves his way through for the first down. Yeah, as they said, a rookie from Wisconsin, even in season in the NFL. Yeah, for real. Yeah, that's true. It's even in the regular season, anything can happen. But like I said, there's no bad teams anymore. There's no more gimme games. There's no more games where you can expect to win or expect to be the better football team. Because at this point, every team's good in the playoffs. At this point, if you underestimate or you take a playoff, that could be the difference between your season being continuing and your season ending. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Anything can happen on any day in the regular season, the postseason. It's football. It's a sport. It's competitive. They're all playing at the highest level. It's NFL football, man. It is. It's how it is going to be. So it should be very interesting. The Colts have a nice little drive going. I like the Bills' defense a lot, but Jonathan Taylor is weaving his way through for quite a few nice pickups. Facts. Oh, there's a nice stop by the Bills team in the backfield. Very good penetration by the Bills defensive line. Jonathan Taylor had no room to move on that one. That backs him up to a 2nd and 11. It should be fun, man. I'm excited for the playoffs. I wish my Lions could make the playoffs one year. Like, I just want to see us win a playoff game. That's all I want. I don't care if we win the Super Bowl. I don't care if we win our division. I want to see a playoff win, and that's about it. Like, I'd be happy with a playoff win. I'd be happy watching my Lions in the playoffs. I'm hoping we can get there next year. I think it's definitely possible, but it'll be a tough one. It'll be tough because the NFC is it's a competitive. The NFL is a competitive league, man. The NFL is competitive. It's tough to be good in the NFL, and my Lions have shown that consistently. But good blitz by, I think it's Matt Milano. Good blitz by Milano. Got a hand on the football, disrupted that. Man, Michael Pittman. I really liked Michael Pittman coming out of USC. I kind of like these other games too. Like, I love my Lions games, but I really like teams that aren't my Lions, because then I get to kind of talk football in general. I get to, what a throw and a catch. Oh my God. But like, I kind of like watching other teams too, because then I get to go through different prospects that the Lions didn't draft. I get to go through different schemes and stuff. Dr. Troy says, bro, toughest schedule. I've seen the 2021 schedule. It's not fun. We play a lot of rough teams. I don't know exactly what it is. I'll look it up, but I know it's a bad one. There's like one semi-easy game in the entire schedule. Hold on. I'll look it up. Lions schedule 2021. And I know the order is not out yet, but we know the teams. Detroit Lions 2021 schedule. So we have the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the Cleveland Browns, the Chicago Bears, the Packers, the Vikings, the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Packers again, the Rams, the Vikings again, the Steelers, and the Seahawks. I've seen this before, and it's not good. Not to mention, we play away at Los Angeles. We play away at Pittsburgh. We play away at Seattle. What else? We play at Cleveland. We play at Atlanta again. Bro, like, what? Who made this schedule? Like, I know how the schedule is made, and a lot of it isn't like, it's not like people just pick and choose matchups, but like, in what world, bro? No, I know. I wasn't saying the order really matters in this one, because that's a tough schedule. But I will say, if the Lions find a way to make the playoffs with that schedule, which I don't think is going to happen, just based on, well, obviously it's tough to say without a coach and all that stuff, and without all of our players and rosters being set. But if we make the playoffs through that gauntlet of a schedule, we'll be a contender. I mean, I have the confidence right now of saying, if somehow we can go through that and get 9 to 10 wins, if that's even remotely possible, or even if we go through that and we sneak into the playoffs, we'll be very, very prepared. We will be ready. Yeah. I know. I mean, lol, no way. I mean, I said that. I mean, I don't think we're gonna make the playoffs next year. I think we'll improve next year. I think we'll be a better football team. And I expect us to keep a lot of these games competitive, hopefully. But Stafford's gonna get super frustrated next year if he's here. If he's here next year, I hope he is. But I mean, if I'm the Lions and I look at that schedule, I'm not throwing a rookie quarterback against Pittsburgh, Seattle, Minnesota, LA, Baltimore, San Francisco, Arizona, Cleveland. I am just not throwing a rookie quarterback in there. Nah, I mean, it'll be a tough one, man. What's up, Kool-Aid and Cornbread? How you doing today? What's going on? Welcome to the stream. Man, it's a rough schedule next year. It might be a long year. I mean, if you look at what we did against our schedule this year, and then I mean, our schedule next year is a gauntlet, man. It's a gauntlet. Yeah, no, we've gone over this several times, Dr. Detroit. Yes, they need to draft the successor or, find the successor. I don't think you have to necessarily draft it. I think there's a couple nice young quarterbacks out there that you could maybe trade for. People are going to probably laugh, but I kind of like Sam Darnold. I think he's shown a lot of potential, obviously showed a lot of potential coming out of college. And, I mean, obviously that Jets team is so dysfunctional. Um, that Jets team is so dysfunctional that I don't think anybody can, really succeed there. But I think he showed potential even in a New York system that hurt him significantly. First play by the Bills is a decent push. I think Sam Darnold is decent. I don't know what we'd have to do to trade for him, but I think he could be, a decent developmental guy to sit for a year. He has a little bit of NFL experience, but we need a stud, bro, not a project. Well, if you're going to draft a quarterback, you're not going to get a stud right out of the draft. I mean, I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be a stud right out of the draft. I think even he's developmental at best. I don't think you're going to get a stud right out of college, and I don't think you're going to get a stud regardless. Decent throw. But that's my opinion. I think obviously you want him to sit, right? We need an absolute, not a project. We are not the project QB team. Yeah, but what quarterback are you going to go out and get that's going to be guaranteed to be good? That's going to, guarantee that he's going to be a stud and is not a project already. I mean, we're not going to get Lawrence. We're not going to get Fields more likely than not. The third best quarterback in the class, in my opinion, is Zach Wilson, but I don't think he's a home run hit. I don't think he's a slam dunk prospect. You look at Dwayne Haskins, a lot of people don't like Dwayne Haskins. I think he showed potential, but I don't think he's, a slam dunk prospect. He has a lot of faults, to say the very least. Sam Darnold I like a little bit, but again, he's shown a lot of faults as well. I think he's shown a lot more than Dwayne Haskins in the NFL, but, he's going to be a project at best. The 3-4 will be, but they can sit for a few better talents. In the 4 in college overall, though. The 4 is no, I don't like Haskins either. I don't like Haskins for sure, Dr. Detroit. We can agree on that. Darnold, I would consider, but again, who do you want, Dr. Detroit? Because we always talk about the replacement for Stafford, the successor, Trey Lance, or the other being Zach Wilson, I would assume. I have not watched a lot of Trey Lance. I watched a bit of Zach Wilson. I will say I like Zach Wilson quite a bit as a quarterback. I haven't seen a ton of Trey Lance, but I'll definitely be taking a look at it. Actually, right before this stream kicked off, I was doing research on Parsons. I was watching his tape against Minnesota, and they did not use Parsons a lot, and he still put up ungodly numbers. So that should be a fun one. That should be coming either today or tomorrow, one of the two. That'll be our first prospect breakdown of the offseason is Micah Parsons. I have a lot of my notes right here in front of me. I watched his tape against Minnesota. I started it. But I'll obviously take a look at Trey Lance. I'll obviously take a look at Zach Wilson. I'll obviously take a look at Gregory Rousseau, who I talked about on the last stream. Kool-Aid and Cornbread says, until we have a coach and an owner that stick up for this team, we will continue to get screwed by the refs and the NFL when these terrible calls. I actually think our owner is very good. I think Sheila is doing a very good job right now. And based on everything that I've seen her do, I think she is the right owner. I think she's a good owner. But Kool-Aid and Cornbread, I definitely agree on the coaching aspect. I think until we get a respectable coach that's, not going to sit there and just take the bad calls, I think that nothing's going to change. I actually have on the 13th for my fan of the year thing. I have a meeting with the head of officiating, so I might have a couple choice words for him when we get there. But it should be fun. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's ridiculous at this point. Like, I get a couple missed calls here and there, but like, why do the Lions have to be the one team? The one team that I support has to be the one that always gets the short straw. Dr. Trish says any of the top four. They're all good and need to develop. Stafford can do that for a couple, then dip if it works. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you're not gonna if you're the Lions, especially with that schedule next year, you're not gonna throw out a rookie quarterback. I think we need somebody to develop for a year. Um, hopefully a guy that can learn quickly behind Stafford. And then maybe we get our Patrick Mahomes. Who knows? I'm waiting. Marvin Lewis and Riddick would be the SOL to me. Yeah, I mean Marvin Lewis is a no. Marvin Lewis is an absolute no-go. If Robert Saleh wants to hire him as a defensive coordinator, I don't think Marvin Lewis's defensive philosophy is necessarily a bad one. I actually kind of like what he calls on defense. Obviously, was a big part of those Raven defenses. Had some good defenses in Cincinnati for a long time. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think kind of the meme of him being with Cincinnati for so much longer than he should have been kind of overshadows what he actually accomplished in the NFL. And what he accomplished in the NFL was actually pretty solid. He had a lot of very good defenses with a couple different franchises, but I do not want him as my head coach. Defensive coordinator, I would consider, but definitely not the head coach. You're right. And Louis Riddick, I don't like him a ton either. I don't like Louis Riddick a lot. I know a lot of people are very high on him, and I don't think he'd be necessarily horrible, but I think just even looking at the guys they interviewed, there are other guys that I like significantly better. I'll absolutely dip if they do that. If they hire Marvin Lewis, you'll not hear another word from me. This channel is getting deleted. I'm gone. Riddick and Matt Millen part 2. Oh no, I hope not. He is like Stafford, no playoff wins. And I agree. Marvin Lewis is I mean, I don't think it's all bad. I think Marvin Lewis obviously had a lot of good defenses, took his team to the playoff a lot of different times. But like you said, no playoff wins is no playoff wins. And as a quarterback, you can kind of have that excuse of, well, the team around him isn't good enough to do that. As a head coach, if you don't have any playoff wins as a coaching stat, to me, it's not a quarterback stat because the quarterback can only do so much. He's only one player. The coach builds the team. The coach brings in his guys and gets his system and gets everything that he wants. And if the coach can't get playoff wins, that's a problem. To me, the whole argument that Stafford doesn't have a playoff win, I think playoff wins is a stupid quarterback stat. I think that's the dumbest thing. Good play by the Colts. I think playoff wins for a quarterback is a dumb stat, but I think playoff wins for a coach is very. I think playoff wins as a coach is very important. Obviously, because that's what they get judged off of, right? I like how this was like supposed to be a playoff stream when we started talking about the Lions anyway. That's just gonna be how it is. But we'll kind of have the game on in the background talking a bit. But yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. It'll be very telling on who Sheila and Rod Wood decide to hire as the head coach. I heard the Robert Saleh interview went relatively well, which I'm excited about. I heard they liked him a ton. And he had some good, obviously they asked him who he's going to hire, who he's going to do, systems and all that. And it seemed to go pretty well. Phillip Rivers is going deep and connecting on a deep shot with Michael Pittman down to the 15-yard line. Very nice play by the Indianapolis Colts. But yeah, I mean, I just think it'll be super interesting to see how they handle that. Man, I really liked Michael Pittman. I was obviously he wasn't there with our second round pick, but he is a good player, man. He's a good player. He'll be very good in the NFL. 1st and 10 at the Buffalo 15. What's going to happen? Phillip Rivers is making some kind of adjustment. Making another adjustment, stepping up to the line. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Snap the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. And minimal pickup. But, I do think it could be again, I don't have the Colts winning this game, but I do think that it's very possible. Uh, Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm reading something very quickly. The Colts are on a second down. They run it with Jonathan Taylor, and he gets stopped for very minimal gain. Oh, okay, this is the Dolphins. All right. Do we play the Dolphins next year? I don't think we do. Dang, that's tough. Oh well. Bro, Tua sucks, bro. Tua is horrible. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. Tua is not that good. I promise you, Tua is not the answer. He's gonna be an average quarterback in the NFL for a long time. I just don't see it. I don't see Tua becoming a great quarterback based off what I've seen in his rookie year. With the best defense and one of the better special teams in football. But yeah, once the game gets interesting, we can get into the game. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's still 0-0, 4th and 7. Rodrigo Blankenship's about to kick a field goal. Miami in the playoffs with Tua. Miami's not in the playoffs this year. Because again, sorry, Dolphins fans, Tua is not the answer. Tua is not that good. I don't even know what was his statistics this season. Oh, Rodrigo made the field goal. Good for him. He's a rookie. He's working out well at the moment. Is he though? Like if you look at his stats, right? I mean, if you just look at Tua, he gets absolutely carried. And I know he's a rookie, and I know he's going to develop, and I have no doubt that he'll get better. But for me, at best, third quarterback in the class right now. Jordan Love hasn't even played a snap yet, so obviously you have to put Tua above him. You know, who were there 5 quarterbacks taken or 4? I mean, Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Jordan Love. Those were the 4. I don't know if there was one more, but at best he's third. At best he's third in his own class. So, great. Maybe Super Bowl in the first year playoff appearance. Yep. No, but 10-6 is good. Don't care about the stats. Yeah, but he didn't go 10-6 though. Like, I mean, he went 6-3 as a starter, which is solid. I mean, it's not bad. 11 touchdowns to 5 interceptions isn't horrible, but again, that's not on Tua. That's the defense being the number 2 scoring defense in the world, bro. See all you kids look at stats too much. Well, yeah, you look at record, right? Yeah, he won 6 games. He lost 3 games. He also got benched twice. He also lost a bunch of games to teams he shouldn't have lost to. He also, in the biggest game of the season when they needed to win to make the playoffs, lost 56-26 while getting benched in the process. Like, I mean, how else am I supposed to look at it? Tua had okay statistics, had an okay record, but again got carried by defense and got carried by special teams a majority of the time. Favre talks about this in depth with Sherman. Who would I compare Tua Tagovailoa to? I think Tua is a very unique player. I'm not really sure who I would compare him to. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'll get back to you, Cool. Let me think about it for a couple minutes. I would compare him to the dude in Arizona. He is not Kyler Murray. Um, no, absolutely not. Their Tua is very far from the athlete that Kyler Murray is. Kyler Murray is probably the best athlete on the field in every single game. So, and Tua is far from it. I kind of see where you're coming from because they're both I mean, Kyler's obviously very mobile. Tua can get out of the pocket when he needs to. Sure, but first year, that is all true. They have been a good. Yeah, the Dolphins were a good team this year. The Dolphins were a very good team, but I mean, they won with Fitzmagic, and they were, I think a better team with Fitzmagic than they were with Tua. Generally, I think not that Fitzmagic or Fitzpatrick is a better quarterback than Tua, but I do think that they generally played better. And when the game was on the line, when playoffs were on the line, you look at it, they benched Tua when he needed to be. Same style. I mean, I think Arizona. I haven't seen a ton of Miami, but I generally think that Arizona runs many more designed QB runs than Miami. But I mean, both of them are good deep ball passers. Both of them have a very good arm. So I mean, I can see the comparison, but I don't think that, if you were to look at their play styles, to me, I don't think they're like completely similar, but I do see similarities. I see where you're coming from with that one. I mean, who I don't know, man. I think Tua will become more of just a game manager in the NFL. I think he has good talent. He has deep ball accuracy. He has decent he has decent qualities, but from everything that I saw from him, like I watched him against Kansas City, and statistically, he has a good football game, right? Statistically against KC, where is it? He 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, there were 3 interceptions that he got away with, one of them turning into a touchdown. You know, and yeah, Miami needs an OC for Tua. I don't disagree with that. Um, you know, at That's as close as I could get for Tua. I mean, yeah, Tua is a very unique player. I think that's very agreeable. I think he's a unique player, but Bills, Josh Allen scrambling out of the pocket, just gonna take off for a nice little first down run. But like you look at the games, and I watched a couple of the games for him. Not all of them, obviously, because I'm not a giant Miami Dolphins fan, but you look at the Kansas City game where they ended up losing that game. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He threw 1 interception that the DB didn't get his feet down, or it was called pass interference. He threw an interception that the DB just straight up went right through his hands for a touchdown. Like, watch Miami. It's my backup. I watch Miami. It's my backup team. Yeah, the Bills are my backup team, so I get that, but that was a very nice throw. Wows. What a throw by Josh Allen. But I mean, it's just I feel like he's so inconsistent. As a rookie, you're gonna get that. I understand. As a rookie, you're not always going to, you're not always gonna have the best plays. And I understand that, but from what I've seen, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Tua in his first year. That was an amazing throw by Josh Allen. I have a condo in Marco Island. My family has been going South Florida since the 50s, so I'm a Dolphins fan also. I feel you. I mean, it's not a bad thing to have a backup team, especially when you're a Lions fan. So, yeah, I got you. I got you. Um, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a very unique circumstance with Tua. But if you think Tua is better than Stafford, you're out of your mind. I mean, you put Stafford on that Dolphins team, they make the playoffs, and it's that simple. Um, and I know Dr. Detroit's gonna laugh and he's gonna say Tua is better than Stafford because I've heard it before, but he's not. Trust me. If Stafford's on that Dolphins team, they make the playoffs this year. Straight up, if he's the starter for the Miami Dolphins all year, the Miami Dolphins go 12-4. And I feel very confident saying that because obviously Stafford's better than Fitzmagic. And yeah. Yeah, but the Dolphins were at least good this year. The Dolphins were at least a good team this year. So, I mean, you could at least rely on that, Dr. Detroit. So, I mean, I don't know. Tua's very interesting. He's a very unique player in a very unique circumstance. But if you're a young quarterback, Miami might be the best. No, I think Tua has longer in the NFL. Well, yeah, obviously Tua has longer in the NFL. Like, he's a rookie. Obviously, he's going to be in the NFL longer than Stafford. But I do think Stafford is more talented, and obviously he's far more proven and far more experienced. So, I mean, I'm not saying like career like flop them right now, like we take Tua, you take Stafford for the rest of their careers. I'm just saying, like, in a vacuum, in this year alone, if you put Stafford on the Dolphins, they have a great quarterback. They are good because I mean, I think you still would have gone 10-6 had you not drafted a quarterback. I mean, if you draft I almost said who did you draft? You drafted Tua. And yeah, your defense is fantastic. I think if you're a young quarterback like Tua, if you're in a situation, if you have an ideal situation to be in, it's Miami because they have a phenomenal defense. They have a decent core around Tua. Obviously, I think Devontae Parker is pretty good. You can draft another wide receiver, get him another weapon, maybe get Tua some protection. Like, if you are Tua Tagovailoa, if you're looking for a situation in the NFL, you have one of the best defenses in the NFL behind you. You have one of the best special teams in the NFL to back you up. And as far as the Dolphins offense, for 90% of their games, they have to be average. Oh, what a touchdown. What a play. Wow. But I mean, if you're Tua, if you're the Dolphins offense, you have to be average for 10 wins. And I think Fitzmagic gets you 10 wins by being average. And I mean, I think that's the exact formula the Lions should use. Yeah, but we should not look at things in a vacuum, bro. This is the SOL problem we have. No, I know, but if we're comparing two quarterbacks, if you put both quarterbacks in the same situation, like you put Stafford on the Dolphins, that Dolphins team performs better than if Tua's on there, if Fitzmagic's on there. And that was the point I was trying to make, right? You look at career wins, all that, you look at, wins this year by Tua. If you put Stafford on there, if you're comparing the two quarterbacks, then you got Stafford the better QB. Like that's just how it is. But yeah, your defense is great, your special teams is great. The core around Tua is relatively solid. I think he'll be a good player for a long time, but I don't think he'll ever be elite as a quarterback. Yeah, that's why he works any decent. Yeah, I mean, yeah, any decent quarterback in the Dolphin system will work. And I think that's exactly what Tua is going to be. I think he's going to be good, but I don't think he'll ever be elite. And I think that's just kind of where I stand. But for people that tell me that we should have drafted Tua, I just don't agree with that because the Lions don't have the core that Miami has. They don't have the roster that Miami has, and Tua would actually I think we have a better offensive line than Miami. So I think he'd get better protection, and I think we have better weapons. Obviously, considering if Kenny Golladay is healthy, then I think we have better weapons, but we don't have the defense for Tua. And people that tell me that Tua should have been the pick, I just don't agree with that because I don't think we have the roster to carry an average quarterback to the playoffs like Miami does. Now, if you told me Justin Herbert should have been the pick, I mean, I can't argue with that one. Like he's been really, really good. Herbert is my rookie of the year. So, and I mean, the Chargers are obviously not a super great team this year. What did they go 5-11? I want to say, but I mean, the Chargers weren't that good, and he still produced in that system. So, if you say we should have drafted Herbert, I wouldn't disagree with you. If you were to say we should have drafted Herbert, I would not disagree with anybody who told me that. I was calling for QB last year to sit behind Stafford. I mean, I wasn't opposed to a quarterback, but I thought if Isaiah Simmons was on the board, we had to go Isaiah Simmons. And Isaiah Simmons was on the board, and we did take him, obviously. And that's not a shot against Jeff. That's not a shot against anybody we did draft or anybody we didn't draft. It's just, I wouldn't have been opposed to a quarterback last year had the value been there. And for me, last offseason in the draft, I think Isaiah Simmons was the best player available. I think he was the best value available. I think he would have been the best player for the Lions to take. Obviously, in hindsight, taking Justin Herbert might have been the better move. But I really like Simmons. I thought we should have drafted Isaiah Simmons strictly because I knew we couldn't draft a quarterback just based on where our coaching situation was. Based on our GM and our coaching situation, they couldn't afford to draft a quarterback and have him sit because that's not helping the team win now, which is what they needed in order to keep their jobs, which didn't happen anyway. But, at this point, if you were to told me, you should have drafted Herbert, I would agree with that. I think we should have drafted Simmons. Simmons was my guy on draft night that I really, really wanted the Lions to take. And we ended up taking Jeff Okudah, who I think will be a good player, but based on what I saw in his rookie season, similar to Tua, I think he'll be a good player in the NFL. Excuse me. I think he'll be a good player in the NFL, but I don't, based on what I saw, and I know he had what a hurdle. Oh my God, 2 hurdles in the same play. But based on what I saw from, Tua and Jeff Okudah, I think both of them are kind of in similar situations to me where they're good players. They're going to be solid players for their franchise. They're going to be good. They're going to be starters for a long time. But to me, based on what I saw, I don't think either of them will ever be considered elite. Bills goated. Hopefully they go to the Super Bowl. Harm, if that's how you pronounce your name, I don't remember seeing you here before. Welcome to the stream if you haven't been here before. I think the Bills are a fantastic team. I have them going to the Super Bowl. If you haven't seen my playoff predictions, I do have the Bills going to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say who I have winning. I'm not going to say what's going on, but I do have the Bills going to the Super Bowl, and on the way, I have them defeating the Colts. I have them defeating who do they play in round two? I think that would be the Steelers, and then I have them beating Kansas City in the conference championship round. So, I do think the Bills go to the Super Bowl. I think that they're a very well constructed team. I think they're the most efficient offense in the NFL as far as I mean they are the best third down offense. They are second in scoring, second in yards. I think they're the most efficient offense in the NFL. They have a above average defense that you can rely upon in the playoffs, and you can obviously rely upon in big moments if you need it. So I do think the Bills will go very far in the playoffs, and obviously they're up 7-3 as the first quarter comes to an end in Buffalo. So I think the Bills could be super super good this year. I think they got a very good core. They got Stephon Diggs, who led the NFL in receptions and receiving yards and touchdowns and all of that. So I think the Bills, I think they're set up to be good for a long time. I think they have a stingy defense that could add a couple more pieces to become elite. That offense is already elite with Brian Dable as the play caller. So I think they're set up for a long time success. They have their quarterback. They have a couple nice weapons and pieces. They have their running back of the future. They have a decent defense. They got, Tre'Davious White. They got all these guys. Have you seen the rumors of Robert Saleh having a good interview? I did see those. I did see those reports. I'm excited about Robert Saleh. He's been my guy since last offseason. He's been my guy since, middle of last season, middle of 2019. Robert Saleh has been my guy for a long time. And I'm glad to see that the Lions interviewed him. I'm glad to see that the mutual interest seems to be there. And I think he will be the next head coach, and I think that he'll be a real good head coach. Good third down stop by the Bills on that one. Cloudy, buddy, come on. But yeah, I have seen the interviews of him having a good, or I have seen the rumors of him having good interviews. I'm super excited about that one. So yeah, I think he'll be a good coach in the NFL wherever he goes, and I'm hoping it's here. The one thing that slightly concerns me, and the one thing that throws me off a little bit, is I've also seen a lot of rumors that he wants to bring San Francisco's pass game coordinator with him. He's gonna bring these DBs with him from San Francisco. He's gonna bring this guy and that guy. And why I don't think that's an inherently bad thing. I just want them to make the right decision based on who's the best person available. And I don't want Robert Saleh to make the San Francisco 49ers passing coordinator the offensive coordinator just because they're friends, right? Just because they've worked together. If Robert Saleh truly believes he's the best guy available for the job, then I don't have a problem with that. But if he's just going to bring in the San Francisco pass game coordinator to be the OC just because they've worked together and just because they're friends, that slightly frightens me a little bit. Not that he's bad or anything. I'm just thinking. Yeah, did you see the interview where they said Marvin? Yeah, I did see Marvin Lewis have a good interview, but I don't think they're gonna hire Marvin Lewis. I just can't see it, but that's just me. He knows how to get players to want to play for him. I think Marvin Lewis is a good players coach, but again, I just wasn't Marvin Lewis the Bengals coach for a while. He was the Bengals coach for a while. He went to Arizona State, I believe, this past offseason was their defensive coordinator. He got to the playoffs a lot, but never really won any huge games for the Bengals, which, as a Lions fan who's had a coach before, cough cough Jim Caldwell, who won a lot of football games, got us to the playoffs, but was never able to win the big game. I feel like that's just taking a step right back to where we were with Jim Caldwell, and it was 3 wasted seasons just to get right back where we were, if that makes sense. Yeah, the playoff wins, the whole thing. Like, at least Jim Caldwell went to a Super Bowl. At least he won a couple of playoff games, not with the Lions, obviously, but he won some playoff games with Indy. So I feel like if we hire Marvin Lewis, we'd just be going right back to a very similar system we had under Jim Caldwell, which would be a huge improvement, but wouldn't get us to where we want to be. Let's see, I lost it. I saw a thing saying the Lions seem content with who Salah wanted for his team. Yeah, I saw that too. I think that was part of the reason that they liked his interview. Um, um, Yeah, I saw something that they liked who he wants on his team as his coordinators, which, as I said, if he believes, and if the organization believes that they are the best the best available, if they believe that they're the best candidates out there to be the next OC, to be the next head coach, to bring in some players that he wants to bring in, then I don't have a problem with that. I just, coming off a regime where our general manager hired a head coach just because they're buddies, that scares me a little bit. But if they're being genuinely thorough, if they go through a bunch of different people, and if they go through a bunch of different people and they decide that he is truly the best, then I truly have no problem with hiring either of them or anybody that Robert Saleh wants to bring in. I want Bevel to continue to be the OC for the team, and let him have the offense. I mean, so here's my thing with Daryl Bevel. One, he's inconsistent. I mean, I saw some really good games from him, and I've seen some very poor games from him, for one. And two, for a guy in Daryl Bevel, right, who built his whole thing on, built his whole identity on running the ball, built his whole identity on, having Adrian Peterson as this great running back, having Marshawn Lynch is this great running back. That's a quarterback for Adrian Peterson. He had Marshawn Lynch, he had Adrian Peterson. Those are downhill runners. And to me, that's not what the Lions have. And I feel like his running, especially the way he calls the run game, the defense or the offense in general, I think get Robert Saleh or Marvin Lewis. Devin99, we've talked about this. I'm not a fan of Marvin Lewis. No Lewis for me. Lions are putting up high points with Bevel for the most part. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that for sure. As I said, he's been inconsistent, but Daryl Bevel's highs have been incredibly high. Daryl Bevel's highs have been the 37 points versus Minnesota, the 35 versus the Bears. His highs have been very high, but for me, I don't know how to describe this. I would like somebody more consistent, and I would like somebody who can use our running backs, especially in better ways. Because for me, I went back and I'm a big fan of Kerryon Johnson. I'm a guy that believes in Kerryon. I'm a guy that's been a fan of Kerryon since day one. And for me, I know a lot of people hate Jim Bob Cooter, and I did not like Jim Bob Cooter. However, I think he used Kerryon Johnson far more effectively than Daryl Bevel has ever used Kerryon. I think Daryl Bevel wants Kerryon to be a downhill runner. And for me, Kerryon is so much more dangerous out on the edge. He's so much more dangerous out in space. And, in Daryl Bevel running him straight up the middle all the time doesn't give him that same opportunity to do so. Not that he can't do it, but I feel like Daryl Bevel doesn't use our running backs the best. He doesn't, put their running backs in the best situation, doesn't put our running backs in the best scenarios to be efficient and to be as efficient as they can be. And I want a guy that can do that. I want a guy that can put up points. And if you're Daryl Bevel and you can put up points, then that's great. But I want more consistency. I want a guy that's going to use our running backs correctly. I want a guy that's going to use our quarterback correctly. I want a guy who's going to get people out. Kerryon's super, super good, right? Kerryon Johnson, this great running back who showed all this flash in year one, all of a sudden seemed to have lost all of his vision. You all of a sudden seemed to lost all of that explosiveness. All of a sudden seemed to lose, what made him a good running back. And I think part of it is the way that he's being used. I think part of that is, Jim Bob Cooter was using him the right way in his rookie season, and then Daryl Bevel came in and he wants Kerryon to be something that he's not. And I think if we get a coach, if we get an offensive coordinator that sees the Kerryon from rookie year and uses him like that, and even uses DeAndre Swift like that, our running backs are going to have a huge jump in efficiency. And that's what I want out of my offensive coordinator. I want a guy that can look at his players, say, okay, KJ had a good year 3 years ago. What changed from year 1 to year 2? Or, Matt Stafford had a MVP like season a year or 2 years ago, but started the season very shaky. What happened from last year or 2 years ago to last year? I want an offensive coordinator that can look at those things and take what we have and take the efficiency that the Lions have and improve upon it and make it better than what it is. I missed a bunch of comments, so I'm going to go back up and read, starting with Devin99. He's never had a GM that's willing to spend the money on a quarterback. I would assume that you're talking about Marvin Lewis there. No Lewis at all. I don't like Marvin Lewis either. If we aren't winning while putting up 35 points, then it just shows the defense can't do anything. Yeah, and I'm not blaming the losses on Darrell Bevell's offense. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that he can't be a good offensive coordinator. And I'm not saying that if he was here next year that I would necessarily be upset. I'm just saying if I'm a fan looking at it, I'm somebody who believes that if you don't have the best player, if you can't improve upon something, even if it's good, you do it, because that's how you become great. That's how you go from good to great. And for me, Darrell Bevell is good, but I think we can upgrade over him, and that's where my viewpoint is at. I think Carry On should carry on to another team. That's funny, Dr. Detroit. Actually, that was a clever comment. That was a funny comment. I like that. Marvin Lewis's experience at building the defense being handicapped. And that's, Devin99, that Marvin Lewis is a guy that I wouldn't be mad if we brought in as defensive coordinator, because I don't like him as a head coach. I don't think he has a good offense when he is a head coach, but he builds good defenses and he has head coaching experience. And especially for a young guy like Robert Saleh, who's never had head coaching experience, I don't necessarily think it would be the worst thing in the world to have a guy that has that experience, that, if something does happen, if for some reason, Robert Saleh is unsure, he can turn to a former head coach and say, what would you do in the situation? And I think experience, if you're going to hire Robert Saleh, it might not be the worst idea. Not that he necessarily needs it, but I don't know if it would be the worst idea to have a little bit of experience in there. He also has the same experience as Matthew Stafford. This is going to be such an argument. The Lions are in a strange situation. He won 4 division titles in the North with the Ravens. Yeah, no, I get both sides of Marvin Lewis, right? Yeah, he won these titles. Yeah, he won the AFC North with the, Ravens. He won it with the Bengals. Like, I get the argument for both sides, but for me, as a head coach, if you can't win in the playoffs, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. That's just my opinion. And, I talk about quarterbacks wins not being a stat. Coaching wins is the only stat that matters. So for me, he wins games, but he reminds me a lot of Jim Caldwell, where he's going to win games. He's going to get you to the playoffs because of maybe a weaker schedule, but he's never going to be able to hang with the big dogs of the NFL. And that's my big knock on Marvin Lewis. He was just 5-10 to 9-7, just a lousy coach. He's just Caldwell Jr. That's my thing. I think I'd compare him to Caldwell, and while Caldwell wasn't bad, Caldwell wasn't great. So, that's my thing. Caldwell wasn't winning the division with Stafford in an easier division. Yeah, but at the same time, division crowns don't mean anything if you can't win in the playoffs, Devin99. That is how it is. Marvin Lewis is better than Caldwell, maybe, but is he better than Saleh? If Marvin Lewis might be better than Jim Caldwell, and I think there's an argument to be made there, but is he the best coach available? Because that's what I'm looking at, is the guy we're hiring, is he the best coach available? And if you ask me, is Marvin Lewis the best coach available? He's just not. He's not the best coach available. If you ask me, is Robert Saleh the best coach available? You could make a very real argument that he is. And I would make the argument that he is the best coach available. So, I don't think it's necessarily the thought that Marvin Lewis is a bad coach so much as that we can do better than Marvin Lewis is where I stand with that. And I know people are going to argue, and I know Dr. Detroit and Devin99 are going to go at this for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. But that's where I stand on it. Devin, we just disagree on him. If we hired him, I would not watch till he's gone. I'd watch, but I wouldn't have the highest hopes. you would want a coach who gets players to like them. Patricia was bad at rallying the team. Nobody yeah, I don't think anybody liked Matt Patricia in the locker room, and that was his biggest downfall. Sherman said good things about Saleh for getting people to play for him, and that's the energy the Lions need. Yeah, I mean, if you watch Robert Saleh on the sidelines, totally not, discrediting what Richard Sherman says. If you look at it, right? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers have a whole highlight tape of just Robert Saleh's reaction on the sidelines. And everything I see from Robert Saleh, he's hyped, he's high-fiving his guys, he's jumping with them, he's having fun, he's in the huddles with them, he's getting them ready, he's getting them hyped, he's getting them excited. He's a leader of men. And I think that's, obviously, when you're a head coach, the big qualities are game planning. The big qualities are using players effectively. The big qualities are all that. But I think the most underrated quality of a head coach is inspiring your players to go out and play, getting them, ready, getting them the mindset of going out to win a football game. Being a leader of men, I think it's an underrated, quality of a coach. So, and I think Robert Saleh absolutely has that quality, with the quality of being a good game planner, with the quality of using players effectively, and, with the quality, again, kind of an underrated one, of fighting through adversity. If Marvin Lewis had a GM, he would have multiple playoff wins. But I don't know, what the offense looked like when Marvin Lewis was the head coach in Cincinnati, but I don't think it was super good. And obviously that's not on Marvin Lewis entirely. That's on the offensive coordinator there. But who's to say that the GM's not going to hold him back in Detroit? We don't know who the GM is yet. So to make that argument, you could also say, how do we know that the GM isn't going to hold him back here? You got Devin 99 says Saleh's my favorite candidate, but I wouldn't be mad at Marvin Lewis. See, my thing is, I wouldn't be mad because I think Marvin Lewis is a bad coach. I would be mad because he's not the best coach. And if, all the top candidates go off the board, right? If Saleh doesn't want to sign here, I'm not a big fan of Bieniemy, but I know a lot of people are. If he doesn't sign here, if, Matt Eberflus doesn't want to be here, if all the top candidates go off the board and, all we're left with is Marvin Lewis, then you got to take Marvin Lewis. But he's not the best on the board, and that's why I would be disappointed with a signing of him. I don't care about stats or the name on the back of the jersey, just the logo on the front. Yeah. Saleh's my favorite also. I would love Rick Smith, and I think that's what you meant to put Dr. Detroit because you forgot the R, or you forgot the I in Rick, but I would love Rick Smith. I think he would be fantastic. I don't know who Patton is. Devin 99, I'm not sure who you're talking about with Patton. If you just put his full name or where he's from or what he does down. Again, I'll obviously look at it right now and see, but I really like this Rick Smith and Robert Saleh, combination. When Rick Smith was the GM of the Texans, when Rick Smith was the GM of the Texans had a top defense. They had a lot of Pro Bowlers. They had a lot of top players in the NFL. The only thing Rick Smith was missing was a quarterback, and he has that in Detroit, for at least for a couple years. So I think Rick Smith and Robert Saleh would be my ideal pairing. They would be my ideal two, but I don't think they're the only two that are going to work. He can definitely draft. That's one thing that I love about Rick Smith. He can definitely draft players. We already have a number guru on the payroll. George Patton, GM candidate we interviewed. Okay. All right. I haven't been super, looking super closely at the GMing candidates, mostly because I don't know a ton what to look for in GMing candidates unless they've been a former GM before, like Rick Smith, so I can look at that very easily. I haven't taken a look at George Patton yet, but I can definitely do so. Texans GM gonna come if we get them to sign. Yeah. Patton is a talent seeker, so yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot about Patton, but if he's a good GM, if you guys like him, then I'll take your word for it. Might get the announcement tomorrow. I think we do hire our next GM. I think our general manager will be hired by, middle of next week. They said they're closing off the GMing thing. They found their guys, they like the guys they've interviewed. And I think genuinely, I do think we will have a general manager by the end of next week. I think come Wednesday, come Thursday, I think, they know who they want. They're probably just working out the paperwork today, tomorrow, maybe even Monday. But I think come Tuesday, Wednesday, I think you should start expect to seeing a hire by our Detroit Lions. Um, Rick Smith or George Patton would be guy. Yeah, I mean, I like Rick Smith. I've done a lot of research on Rick Smith and his past and his history and all that with drafting and talent evaluation and obviously free agents and contracts and all that. So, he's my top guy, but I'll definitely do some looking at George Patton because I think obviously I value all of your opinions, and if you guys like George Patton, then I definitely got to do a quick look in on the man himself. So, yeah, I think that can definitely happen. But it'll be fun, man. It'll be super, super interesting to see who plays where, who gets signed. I'm really hoping for Rick Smith. That's my number one guy. And I'll obviously do some work, and I'll obviously do some searching on Mr. George Patton if y'all like him so much. But yeah, yep. Ooh, the Colts scored a touchdown. I believe it was a QB sneak by Jacoby Brissett. I want them to announce everything now. I'm sick of waiting. I mean, I'm sick of waiting, but I also don't want them to rush the decision. And I think they've only completed one or two head coaching interviews. So I mean, they're definitely not going to announce the head coach. We will need to stretch stuff out because with the schedule, oh boy, next year will be a long year. Yeah, yes, it will be. The schedule next year is not a fun one. The Tua's pick six. Wow. Wow. Tua threw a pick six, boys. I'm sick of waiting. I really want to know who our next coach is going to be. I really want to know who our next GM is going to be. But in saying that, I don't want them to rush the decision. I don't want them to pick a guy just because the fans want him. As much as I want Robert Saleh, I think there's a lot of good candidates out there. So, I mean, we'll get there with Chris Spielman's brother. I got you. All right. All right. Well, I mean that's a relationship, which again, you don't want to hire somebody just because they know somebody that or just because you like them. But if that relationship isn't inherently a bad thing. If people think he's a good candidate, they think he's good at his job, then that's how it's gonna be. And if he's good at his job, he's good at his job. Bring the man in. Look at Daryl Roberts. Y'all remember Daryl Roberts on the Lions, man? I miss that guy. That guy was a good returner. He was a decent receiver. If that's the guy I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure that's Daryl. But yeah, that was against Indianapolis for the delay of game. Not bad. Let's see. Holding of the receiving team, not a bad one. So, I mean, I really want to know, and I think we'll know our GM very, very soon. And I think probably the week after that. No, he has his own history. Yeah, no, that's what I would assume. But I think we'll know our GM by the end of the week, and I think we'll know our head coach by the end of next week, to be totally honest. I think, we should have everything figured out by the third week of January, by the fourth week of January. So things are coming. Things are going. And it's good, but he works with Chris Spielman's brother in this. Gotcha. All right. I got you now. Very cool. Hey, like I said, as long as you're good at your job, you could come to my Lions team. Speaking of jobs, the Lions are looking for a new defensive line coach as well, which I think is real big because our defensive line was horrible, and I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. But that was a solid stick right there by the I said Houston defense because I read Justin Houston's name. Good stuff by the Indy defense. But One Pride 40 says opinion on Todd Bowles. All right, so One Pride 40, we've talked about Marvin Lewis for quite a while already today. And the conclusion we came to is he's going to be Jim Caldwell 2.0. He's going to win you games. He's going to get you the playoffs, but he's never going to get you that big win. He's never going to get you that playoff victory, that Super Bowl win. And for that reason, I'm out, as they would say on Shark Tank. Um, you don't think it's scheme? I do think it's scheme. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's scheme and I think it's coaching. I think coaching does a lot, but again, I think scheme does a lot of it too. So I guess it's a combination of the two for me, Dr. Detroit. My opinion on Todd Bowles. I mean, he wasn't very good as a head coach the last time. Not a fan of Lewis, just a glorified Carl. That's what we said, One Pride. That's what we said. That's crazy. Um, I guess that's a very common opinion. Todd Bowles, I'm not sold on. I'm not sold on Todd Bowles. I mean, you look at what he's doing now with Tampa Bay, and yeah, that's sick that he's doing great. But I mean, that Tampa Bay defense is really good. I mean, you got Shaq Barrett, you got Ndamukong Suh, JPP, Devin White, Levante David, even Sean Murphy Bunting's not bad. And Antoine Winfield Jr. is a good play. Like you look at what he's doing in Buffalo, and it's great. But with that being said, what's he gonna do with without Ndamukong Suh? What's he gonna do without Devin White? Without Levante David? Without Antoine Winfield Jr.? Without Shaq Barrett? It just to me, both of them are average head coaches, and I think we can do better. But I do think it's a fair question to ask. Here's another fair question to ask. Since this really just turned into me talking about the Lions game and talking about Lions football, we could always just, have some live streams talking Detroit. We could always just have like an hour or two, hour and a half where I just come on here and talk Lions. We don't need a game to do it. We could just come on here once a week, maybe on Saturdays, maybe on Sundays, and instead of a Lions game, we just talk about the Detroit Lions for a bit. That might be the move, actually. Who do you think is going to be our head coach and GM? I don't know who it will be, but I'm hoping it'll be. I'm really hoping for Rick Smith at GM and Saleh at head coach. We need one guy to hype the team. We have up to fight, a no chance to win. Continues to build. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that could be kind of something interesting. But I got the Bills in this. I got the Bills in this one too. I don't think next year. A lot of people are going to say next year's a wash. A lot of people are going to say next year is a waste. But genuinely, I don't think that's the case. And genuinely, no matter how many wins we have, I think next year is super, super important because, you watch the record, right? The record for next year does not matter. But next year is a super good chance. Next year is a great opportunity for the Lions to get a lot of things installed that they want there, right? If you draft a quarterback, he might not play next year, but that's a year that he can sit and develop for a year. The record doesn't matter, but he gets to sit and develop for a year. Robert Saleh, a rookie head coach, gets to iron out some of his flaws. So, Robert Saleh gets to figure out the NFL as a head coach. Robert Saleh gets to figure out things as, the big man, the guy in charge at an organization. He gets a year to figure that out and work out some of the kinks in the defense that he wants to run in Detroit, which could be good. Oh, Michael Pittman gone. Oh, good. Wow, what a catch and run. The roster really ain't that attractive. The offense, sure, but defense, I mean, I think the defense has some pieces, right? I mean, I'm not going to tell you they're an elite defense, but I think in the right system, Jared Davis could be good. I think in the right system, Tracy Walker could be good. In the right system, Okudah and Amani can be good. You look at, Jelani, I thought finished the season relatively strong. I don't think we have a whole lot of talent on the defensive line. I think we're paying a lot of guys money for average play, but yes, sit and watch what kind of absolute beating he is for the next. But like next year, I think it would be a good opportunity to develop a quarterback, to work out some of the kinks in your first year defense by a new head coach without, a ton of consequence, right? It's not like he has to be good year one or he's gone. I think that could be a good year to work out some of the kinks in his defense, get the right people in. It'd be a good, 2-year transition for the Detroit Lions to bring in good talent and get some of the poor contracts off the books while bringing in better and more better value talent. And I think the Lions, genuinely, I think they have the roster with the right head coach. I do think they could have a roster to compete. Am I going to go as far to say they're going to make the playoffs? Am I going to go as far to say they're going to be Super Bowl champions or division champions? No, 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 no. But I do think they have the roster with the right coach that they can compete. I think that next year we could see a lot of good things out of our Lions team. But, I think it'll be probably a long year next year. I agree with that approach. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a very good opportunity to get, the pieces in place for the future, right? You get Bob Quinn better than Millen. I don't even remember Millen that well. So I don't think even Bob Quinn was that bad. I think he made real poor decisions with coaches. And I think he had a couple real bad contracts, but I don't think he was a horrible GM. I would take him over a couple other guys, but see that's practical thinking. Yeah, I mean, I think like I'm an optimistic person. I like being optimistic about my lines. I like being optimistic about a lot of things. But I'm also not gonna come out here and tell you we're gonna go win the Super Bowl, right? Um, it's just I don't know. It'll be a very unique transition year where I'm trying to think of a good scenario like that. I'm trying to think of a similar scenario that the Lions are in right now because why I don't think they're gonna go super far in the playoffs or be super great next year. Yeah, I heard Salah interviewed very well today or yesterday. But I do think it could be a very good opportunity to get pieces in place to be successful because you know I think it's possible for the Lions to be good next year with the right coach and the right system. I think they have a decent amount of talent on both sides of the ball, and I think with a good coach, the defense could become average. I'm not going to say they could become elite overnight. I'm not going to say with the right coach, this defense is going to be number one in the NFL. But I think with the right defensive system, I think the defense could become average and I think with the right system and the right coaching, this defense can be super, super deadly, which, an average defense and an elite offense, that's the Buffalo Bills. And they're the second seed in the AFC. So I do think it's not unrealistic that the Lions can be successful next year, but I do think come 2022, the Lions with a maybe potentially a young groomed quarterback who has ironed out some of the flaws coming out of college and is good now and is ready to go step up and be the leader. A defense that has been improving the past 2 years. Obviously, at this point, we'd be talking 2022, but a defense that, has been growing and developing and getting the right pieces for 2 years now. A guy that's developed his system for 2 years is going into his it would be his second year as a head coach with a more ironed out philosophy, with more experience as a head coach. I think the Lions genuinely are not in a bad position, and I think in a year or two they can be genuinely pretty good. This is not. There's nothing wrong with being optimistic, but realistic is all I'm asking for. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So in the running, I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't want to sound negative, but I think we are picking top 10 again next year. I mean, again, I'm an optimistic person, right? And I've said that. And like I just explained, I think with the right coaching, this defense can be average. And I think with the right coaching, this offense, with the pieces they have, especially if they find a way to bring back Kenny Galladay without a stupidly over expensive contract, then I genuinely think this team can be dangerous next year. And if you're a fan looking at that schedule, you're going to say it's a tough schedule and we're not going to do a lot. But if you're a team having Super Bowl aspirations, you gotta beat the good teams, right? You gotta have big wins against big teams. So I'm not. I get distracted. One price says if they hire Lewis, what are you saying about the fans? We okay to mediocrity?
I'm not okay with mediocrity. I'm not okay with being average. I'm not okay with 8-8, 9-7. I think from that standpoint, Bob Quinn was right. From that standpoint of we can't be average, we got to be better than what we are currently. From that standpoint, I think he was right. But the guy he hired was not right. So, you know, well, at least we didn't hire. Hey, I feel so poorly for Texans fans. Like, I know a couple Texans fans. I feel bad for them because not only did they hire I think that's who it was. Is that who you're referring to on Pride as the dude the Texans hired at GM, the Casario? Because I feel like that's his name. I feel like um Texans GM. I think is that who they hired? I want to say that is who they. Yeah, Nick Casario. If we hired him, I would have lost my mind. If we hired him, I would have lost my absolute mind. And I'm so glad we didn't. But not only did they hire a former Patriots general manager, and as Lions fans, we all know how that feels, and we all know how that's going to turn out. But I also saw a report, and get this, and you're going to die laughing, right? They are considering hiring Josh McDaniels from the Patriots to be their head coach. They are looking at Adam Gase as the offensive coordinator and Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator. They are going to have the two of the worst head coaches in NFL history, one of the worst offensive play callers that I've ever seen at offensive coordinator, one of the worst defensive play callers I've ever seen as the defensive coordinator, and a rookie head coach from New England when they just hired a former New England offensive coordinator that was their head coach a year ago. That is ingenious by the Texans. And you know what? The Texans are going to wonder why Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there. Deshaun Watson's not an idiot, people. Deshaun Watson sees Matt Patricia coming to town. He sees Adam Gase coming to town. He sees Josh McDaniels coming to town. He sees this Casillo dude coming to town, Casario coming to town. He's not having it. He's like, if you hire 4 former New England Patriots and waste half a decade of my career, I'm done, bro. I'm leaving. Defensive genius and offensive genius match made in heaven. I guess if your terms of defense is a little different than mine. Oh, here's an interesting play. I'll get right back in just a second. 4th down for the Colts. Let's see what happens. Cole Phillip dropping, throwing it. Oh, and Michael Pittman dropped it. Bills get the ball back. Minute 46 left. Man, I feel bad for Texans fans. Y'all can come over and be Lions fans if you'd like, because I think we have a much brighter future than the Texans. But if they hire, I will lose my mind. I will do a live reaction or something, because if for some reason the Texans owner hires a GM from New England, which ends up being the snapping and the breaking point between them and Deshaun Watson. If he then goes out and hires an unproven guy from New England, where coaches very rarely work out from, after firing Bill O'Brien, who was the general manager or who was the offensive coordinator at New England before he went to Houston. He then goes out and hires Matt Patricia and Adam Gase as his coordinators. I would lose my mind. That would be the funniest thing I will ever read or ever see. And I would tune into every single Houston Texans game just to see that fire. I would be so unbelievably excited to watch the Houston Texans just so they know what it feels like to have Matt Patricia as a coordinator and have Adam Gase as a coordinator. That would be fantastic. That would be the funniest. That would be the greatest thing. But enough about the Texans. Enough about the Texans. They're not talking about the Texans, man. Man, I don't know why as a general manager you'd ever take the Texans job. I don't know, like, how they conned this dude into being their GM. But if I'm a general manager, a guy looking for a general manager job, Houston is the last place that I'm going. The last place. They have little talent. They just finished, they have the number 3 pick in the NFL draft, but they don't get to use it. They have, they're the bottom 3 team in the NFL. That would be the biggest meme in sports history. That would be the biggest disaster in sports history. And if that happens in real life, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait. I'd be so happy. But if I'm looking for a general manager and you look at Houston, they have no cap space. They're they're in negative cap space right now. They don't have a ton of talent as they just finished the 3rd worst team in football. They're losing Deshaun Watson. I think we announced our GM first, Devin99, just strictly because they finished all the GMing they finished all the GMing interviews, and they are still have some head coaches to interview. So I do think they hire the GM first because one, that makes sense because the GM generally hires the coach. But with that being said, they've also finished all the GMing interviews way before all the coaching interviews. So I think we do get our GM before our head coach. One Pride 40 says the last place I'm going is the Jags. That's the first place I'm going. If I'm a general manager, I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have Miles Jack. They have a decent core of 3. They have 3 real good players on that side. They got Josh Allen, Miles Jack, and the cornerback out of Florida they just drafted, CJ Henderson. That's 3 solid players, one at each level of your defense that you can build around on each level of your defense. They have the most cap money in the NFL, so they can go out and get a ton of free agents and a ton of talent to bring in. They have the number 1 overall pick, so they can either take Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, depending on who they think is the better quarterback. So, and on the offense, they have Laviska Shenault, who is very solid. What a throw and a catch. Oh my God. You look at the Jags, they have $100 million cap space. They have, a couple decent players, right? I mentioned on the defense. They have Josh Allen in the front 7. They have Miles Jack as a linebacker. They got CJ Henderson as a cornerback. 3 very good players in the back end. You go over to the offense, you'll get your quarterback in Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, depending on who they want, depending on who the coach and GM want. You have James Robinson, who it was 3rd in rushing yards this year. You have Laviska Shenault, who is very solid. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have a decent wide receiver core, like Devin99 just said. They have, not a great offensive line or anything, but that team, if you go into free agency, right, if you get Trevor Lawrence in the 1st round, you get the best offensive lineman available in the 2nd round. You maybe get another good pass rusher, a solid pass rusher with your 3rd round pick. And that's not even considering, you can go out in free agency. You can get another good wide receiver to pair alongside DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. You can go get another running back to be a change of pace back, more of a bruiser if you want, be what you wanted Leonard Fournette to be in free agency. You can go out and get some good offensive linemen in free agency. You need defense, go out and get a good pass rusher. You have the money to do it. You're looking at that. They're going to probably go out and hire Urban Meyer, who's one of the most successful and longest tenured coaches in the history of football. If I'm a general manager, the first place I'm looking is Jacksonville, because you have all the potential in the world to build a great team. And when Formation says, you not hear about the owner going to micromanage you. Yeah, but I get that the owner's going to micromanage you. I understand that. But at the same time, they have such a good situation. It would almost be hard to screw it up. And if you can somehow convince the owner, right, that what you've been doing isn't working, and you go into a meeting, not to be disrespectful, Mr. Jaguars owner, sir, but what we're doing isn't working. What we've done, what you guys have done the last couple of years isn't working. Give me a year. Give me this cap space. Give me these draft picks. Give me this team. Give me the reins, and I will fix your team. And if it doesn't work after a year or two, if you do not see improvement, then you're done, or then I'm done. Like, if you can somehow convince the owner to not micromanage you, and even if he does, like they have so much space and so much capital and so many ways to improve the team at so many different spots, it would be hard to screw up in Jacksonville. It would be incredibly difficult to screw things up with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not to mention, you live in gosh darn Florida. Like you could go out to the beach every single day. Like you could be losing, but then you go home to a beachside house and you just enjoy your weekend. Like it's not a bad gig, and especially for Urban Meyer, a very tenured head coach. Like and a guy that I think they even said they might give general manager duties to as well. Just give him the reins, give him the keys to the car, and let him drive it. But like I think Jacksonville is the best situation. And I get that the owner is, a micromanager or whatever, but genuinely, if I'm a general manager and I'm looking and I'm weighing my options, I got 100 million in cap space. I have the first pick in every single round of the NFL draft. I have a small but relatively good core of players that I can build around for the future. Like it's Jacksonville. I live in Florida. If I'm Urban Meyer, I'm making $12 million a year. Like I think Jacksonville will be a good gig, but well, obviously, I'm not talking like me as the general manager, but like if I were the general manager considering things, the most attractive. But like, why would Atlanta be the most attractive job? They have zero cap space with a ton of horrible contracts. I mean, Matt Ryan's contract is not good and he's getting older. Julio Jones is getting older with a very bad contract. They have no cap space. They have some good picks, but you don't have any cap space to make anything work. And they don't have a defense that can stop a lot. There's a lot of work to be done on that Atlanta front and that Atlanta team in general, and they don't have the capital to fix it like the Jaguars do. So for me, Atlanta is not even close to top. Like I'd be like, if you could explain to me one pride why, because I'm not trying to make you feel dumb. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but like why do you think Atlanta would be the best job? Because to me, they have so many deficits at the team, right? They have so many things wrong with that franchise right now. You have a bunch of poor contracts that you can't even really get off the book because there'd be a ton of dead cap space. You look at the quarterback, he's an aging quarterback. And at best, you're going to get the third best quarterback in the draft to develop. You have Julio Jones, great Hall of Fame talent, horrible contract. I mean, you have a lot of bad contracts. You have no money. Like, why would Atlanta even be close to the best job? If anything, I'm taking Detroit over Atlanta because I think Detroit has a better starting roster and they have more cap space to work with. Like, if anything, Detroit's better than Atlanta because they have more cap space with a better starting roster and it's very similar picks. Devin Hernandez has 100 million in cap space, a lot of young talent, number one overall pick, a lot of draft capital. It's not even quite. Yeah. Yep. I agree with Devin 99. If One Pride is still in the building, if One Pride is still in the stream, I'd love to hear the reasoning behind you thinking Atlanta has the most attractive job. I don't see it that way, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong without giving you a chance to defend yourself, without giving you a chance to explain. So, if you are in the building, One Pride, I'd be very interested as to see, where your head is at as far as what makes Atlanta attracting. But yeah, for me, Jacksonville's top. I think LA is decently high up there for me just because, you have the young talent in Justin Herbert. You got a decent roster around Tim Eckler, Keenan Allen, a decent roster there. You have some, key pieces on defense. Kenneth Murray's good. Obviously, Joey Bosa got his extension. He's super good. I think that team has some talent as well. I don't know what their cap situation is looking like, but I think they're in the positives. I'm pretty sure LA isn't super far. If they are in debt, it's not super far in debt, I don't believe. So I mean, I think LA is a top one as well. But free play. Go, Josh. It's a pick, but it doesn't matter. It's warm. You have talent, both sides of the ball. Yeah, but you're picking at number 6 for a reason, One Pride, and you have no cap space to fix the problems that the team obviously has. Hey, stop. Like it's warm. If you're a head coach and the biggest reason you want to go to a team is because it's warm, that's, I mean, not it's not a great reason to be the head coach or to go to a team. If you're gonna put your whole, reputation on the line, I'm not gonna go to Florida just because it's warm outside. I'm gonna go to Florida because they have a good situation. It's just like I feel like Atlanta has so much to overcome that it's a bottom. It's one of the worst situations. Like they have some decent talent. Yeah, they have some okay talent. Matt Ryan's good. Calvin Ridley, good. But Chargers most attractive for a head coach. I think the Chargers is super attractive for a head coach. But I just pick six. Yeah, I saw that. He like kind of dropped it though. I mean, that was strange. What does he maintain control? Because as a Lions fan, I'm very aware. Because like that ball hits the ground, and I'm not convinced he catches that cleanly. I mean, if he does, that's a phenomenal play. If he catches that, that is amazing. But if he does catch it, he got touchdown. If he does catch it, he's down by contact. That's not 6. That's 15 on the Bills being smart and touching him down. But man, what a play! I'm not convinced he caught that ball, but if he did, that's real nice. That's very, very solid. So yeah, I mean Detroit's not a bad situation. They have talent on both sides of the ball. They have a very good offense with Stafford, with Kenny, DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson, TJ Hawkinson, or Frank Wright. I mean, you look at the Detroit team, and I've talked about this in several videos. You have your quarterback, you have 2 good running backs, you have a Pro Bowl tight end, you have a Pro Bowl wide receiver, you got, a decent offensive line. You got 3 of your 5 positions completely secured. You'll go over the defense. You got 2 young developing cornerbacks. You got you got some decently high picks to make some changes. You got Jared Davis, who showed some flash in his sophomore season, and very similarly to some other players, got ruined by Matt Patricia. You got some guys in the back. You got Tracy Walker, who's good. You have, John Pennicini, who's good. You have a Pro Bowl-esque special teams. You have a decent amount of cap space, some decent picks. Detroit is a good situation to be in. Detroit has some high cap space, high picks, and a lot of young talent. Yeah, it's way better than Atlanta. And one Pride 40, we're not going to be. What can you do with 12 million? I mean, what can Atlanta do with negative 24? That's my question. Like, you're gonna rip on Detroit for having. You're gonna rip on Detroit for having 12 million cap space. Atlanta has negative 30 almost. They're $30 million in debt in the cap. So, I mean, if you're going to look at that, there's that. What can you do with 12 million? A decent amount. The Kansas City Chiefs had $177, and not only did they sign Tyrann Mathieu, they also signed Patrick Mahomes to a $500 million deal. They also signed Chris Jones to an $85 million deal. So there's a lot of ways to maneuver around the cap space, but it's a lot easier with $12 million than it is with negative 30. So, I mean, the talent is better in Detroit. The talent's better in Detroit. The cap space is better in Detroit. The draft picks I'll give you to Atlanta, but not by much. So, I mean, if you look at Detroit, it should be a desired job by a GM and a head coach, because there's a decent amount of stuff to work with. I mean, it's a much better situation than, say, the Falcons, than, say, especially the Houston Texans, than, say, some of the other teams. You look at the Jets, they're in a very good spot, but would I take that Jets starting roster over the Lions starting roster? There's an argument for both sides. I think LA is a good situation. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, touchdown Josh Allen. I'm not going to tell you that Detroit's the best option, but it's not a bad option. I mean, you can do a lot with 5 draft picks, all of them being top 10 in each round. You can do a lot with 12 million in cap space. You can do a lot with number 9 as your quarterback, number 32 as your running back, and number 19 as your wide receiver. Like, I'm just, bro, we are hard to sell, but we're not hard to sell. For free agency, you can do quite a bit with that money. I mean, again, going back to your thoughts about Atlanta, in what way is Atlanta a better situation than Detroit? Because it's not. You look at free agents, Robert Saleh, if we do hire Robert Saleh, he's going to be a big attraction for free agents because, he already mentioned, and there's already been stories, they're going to bring in some DBs from San Francisco. Likely he's going to be very, enticing to a lot of his former players when their contracts are up. He's a guy that has a great reputation of working with players that will entice free agents to come to Detroit. Like the Lions, especially if they do get Robert Saleh, would be an even bigger sell because they have the hottest head coach in the NFL. They have arguably the biggest name in head coaching right now, or head coaching candidacy right now. Like this team is not a hard sell. It's not a bad team. It's a decent starting roster who, under a decent head coach went to the playoffs 50% of the time. If you have confidence in yourself as a head coach, you should want to be here. If you have any confidence in any skill as a general manager, evaluating talent and not being horrible at contracts, you should want to come here because this team has the cap. They have the talent. All they need is the coach and a couple plugs for holes here and there, and they're a playoff contender again. So, whereas I don't see that with Atlanta for a very long time. But, we're going to disagree, I'm sure. But I'd love to, I mean, I'd be very curious as to see why you think Atlanta is better than Detroit. Like, I'd be super curious to hear why because I would sign Levante David, draft Micah Parsons or Dylan Moses. Our linebacking core fixed immediately. If Levante David's available, I would definitely sign him. Statistically, he's right up there with Bobby Wagner as, he's right up there with the top linebackers every year. It's not just this year. You look at Bobby Wagner versus Levante David over their careers, they're very similar players. That's halftime. The Bills are up 14-10. Good playoff game so far. But you look at Levante David, who's a super heavily underrated linebacker, but a linebacker nonetheless that is incredibly good. You look at Jared Davis, who I think has a ton of potential as a linebacker still, and with a guy like I don't know, Robert Saleh, who is a linebackers coach, he could be super, super good with that. He could turn Jared Davis into what we wanted him to be. You draft Micah Parsons in the first round. Well, that's who I'm doing a prospect breakdown right now. That's who I was working on before the stream started, was a Micah Parsons breakdown that will be coming out either today or tomorrow. You look at that. That's a real good pick. You look at you can potentially get Dylan Moses in the second round, or if you want to trade down later into the first, Dylan Moses will likely be there late first round because, from everything that I've seen, he tends to go later in the first round, early in the second round. You could get Dylan Moses, and I think he's not as good as Micah Parsons, but I think he's super good. And then if we run a 4-3 like San Francisco runs, you put out Levante David, the veteran linebacker who's had all the success in the NFL. You roll out Jared Davis, the dude with all the potential that people aren't even going to pay attention to. And you roll out Micah Parsons, the big name drafted linebacker who's, supposed to be the next great linebacker in the NFL. That on paper is an elite receiving core. You pair that with Jamie Collins, who had 100 tackles this year before some turnovers. You pair that with Jamie Collins, who could be a decent rotational linebacker for us. You pair that with maybe you bring Reggie Ragland back, who I was very impressed with this season. That's a 5-deep linebacking core that is super, super solid. I don't know how much money Levante David would be, but I know we have the money to bring him in if he wants to be here. If we can convince him to be a Detroit Lion, we can definitely convince him. If we can convince him to be a Lion, we have the money to pay him. Yeah, I just think that, we have some good place to maneuver. But again, signing Levante David, you have to do the Buccaneers re-sign him first? Does he even make it to the market? All that kind of stuff. But, it's just, I think there's a lot of ways the Lions can go about fixing their team. And, generally in the situation they sit, they're not super far. So Deion Jones is always hurt. No, well, Deion Jones gets hurt a lot. Keanu Neal is always hurt and actually isn't that good of a safety. Grady Jarrett, I'll give you. Grady Jarrett's very good. Calvin Ridley is good. Ryan Matthews is okay. So that's 5 players, 2 of which are always hurt. Matt Ryan, who has a bad contract, Julio Jones, who has a bad contract. Um, it's just Alex, Alex Mack, who's super old. Um, it's just it's not a super enticing job. You have an injury riddled safety who truly hasn't done a lot in the NFL. You have Deion Jones, who I think is a good linebacker, but has some injury problems. You have Grady Jarrett, who I'll give you is a very good player. Calvin Ridley, phenomenal player. Ryan Matthews, decent player, but I'm not going to go to Atlanta just for Ryan Matthews. Alex Mack is an aging center, who I believe is 31 or 32. Matt Ryan, aging quarterback with a bad contract. Julio Jones, aging wide receiver, bad contract. Reggie Ragland might be slow. He doesn't miss tackles. He gets people on the ground when you need him to get people on the ground. I like Milano over David, one pride says. That's fine. I can give you that. One Matt Milano, good, very good linebacker as well. I would take either one of them. So I mean, yeah, you look at Atlanta. You got Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, Grady Jarrett, Calvin Ridley, Brian Matthews. You look at Detroit, Matt Stafford, aging quarterback, maybe still playing at a high level. You could say the same for Matt Ryan. I think, I believe Stafford's playing better than Matt Ryan right now. But if you want to call that a draw, we'll call it a draw. The Detroit Lions have a better wide receiver core. Or the Detroit, not a wide receiver core, but the Lions can resign Kenny Galladay, who is a good wide receiver. You can resign, obviously Quintez Cephas showed flashes. There's a good wide receiver class of both free agents and there's a good free agent class of receivers and good draft class of receivers. So you can get, you have your top wide receiver in Kenny. You can go out and get his partner with either, maybe it's Corey Davis, maybe it's Curtis Samuel. There's a lot of places you can go with that. The Lions have Tracy Walker, who has produced far more in the NFL than Keanu Neal has ever done. You have Deion Jones, but Jarrett Davis is a very similar skill set to Deion Jones, who, Deion Jones just happens to be in a better system that plays to his strengths more than Jarrett Davis is. They have a much better offensive line than Atlanta. They have a much better center than Atlanta. You ever heard of Frank Ragnow? He's the best center in the NFL. And again, like Devin99 says, Alex Mack is 35, Matt Ryan 35, Julio Jones 31. We have younger talent and better talent than the Atlanta Falcons with more cap space. And it's in a better starting overall roster. I'm not saying Atlanta's not attractive, but I'm saying that it's nowhere near as attractive as Detroit would be. So yeah, yep, that's where I stand with that. I actually really enjoy doing this stuff. So for the 3 people that are in the stream, and I might put this at the bottom as a banner, would you be interested if I just did like Lions Hawks on Sunday? If I just did like Detroit Lions talks where I just come on here for an hour, 2 hours, talk Lions, talk either draft, talk prospects like we're doing right now. Would you guys be interested in that? Because that would be, I think that could be really, really fun. And I can't see comments right now, so just give me like 2 seconds if you're leaving comments. Just let me put in this banner. Would you like to see weekly Lions talks about the team? Okay, so add that banner. I'll leave that at the bottom just so new people can see. I'm taking A-Rob over Kenny. That's fine, but you know what? The Falcons don't have A-Rob, so there's that. I would take either one. I think Allen Robinson and Kenny Galladay are both really, really talented guys. Okay, you might change my mind. That's what I'm here for. But I know Devin99 and One Pride 40 are in the building. Would you guys be interested in that? Just kind of like on Sundays instead of a game with the Detroit Lions, because obviously they're not playing. Come on and do exactly what we're doing. Have a little debate. I can invite you guys on if you'd like. Have you guys on the stream, talk about the Lions a bit, talk about their future, talk about GMing hires, talk about all that. It could be kind of an interesting thing on the weekends. On Sundays, just go over NFL opinions. Yeah. What your opinion on the NFL moving to Nickelodeon? I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but the NFL's got to make money, and if Nickelodeon's willing to pay, they're willing to pay. I don't have a strong opinion on that. It's not, I don't think a whole lot's going to change from it, except the commercials might be a little bit more childish. but I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Pro Bowl being on Disney XD every year. But I don't know if it'll make the biggest difference, to be totally honest. Yeah, that would be fire, especially during the offseason. All right, Devin. Um, Obviously, I'll take your opinion into account. We don't have pass rushers though. I mean, Romeo Quart just had 10 sacks. Um, I mean, Trey Flowers is decent. I think he's incredibly overpaid, but he's gonna, when healthy, get you 7, 8 sacks a season. Like I agree we don't have an elite pass rusher. I get that, but I mean, does Atlanta have an elite pass rusher? I mean, they don't. I mean, Grady Jarrett's very good, but is he an elite pass rusher? I wouldn't say so. Um, I mean, yeah, we have holes, and I'm not saying the Lions are perfect. I'm not saying the Lions have no room to improve. I'm just saying they, compared to other teams looking for GMs and head coaches, they do not have a bad thing going for them. So, again, yeah, I mean, Romeo Okwara had 10 sacks. Trey Flowers is decent, like Devin's saying. Julian Okwara, I think, has a lot of room to improve. I think he has a ton of potential, though, to be a good rotational pass rusher and maybe even one day transition into you know, a top pass rusher for the Lions, turn into that, maybe a Devin Kennard who's going to get you 7, 8 sacks. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be an elite guy, but I think Julian Okwara can develop into somebody where we can reliably get 7, 8 sacks out of him. And maybe one year, very similar to his brother, break out and have double digits. Romeo Okwara will be even better next year. I mean, we got to bring him back though, is the first part of that, right? Like we got to bring back Romeo, we got to re-sign him and all of that. So I think that could be super, super interesting. But I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic. Yeah, if we could only re-sign one, I'm re-signing Jared Davis, bro. I'm resigning JD. Jamal Agnew, I love Jamal Agnew, but Deron Harmon sucks, bro. Whoever said Deron Harmon? Sorry, I was looking at a Twitter poll. So rank your NFL coaching vacancies. Who's available? Just so I have the entire list. NFL coach vacancy. All right. Okay, so CBS Sports is generally not bad. I just need the things. So I don't want somebody else's rankings. I hate Flowers' contract too. One pride. Don't get me wrong. I think Flowers is a decent. I think he's decent, but I think we're overpaying him a ton. Number one for me for a coaching vacancy, I would say probably the Chargers. I'd say probably the Chargers. Because they have decent cap space. They have 8 picks in the NFL draft. They're picking relatively high. They have their quarterback. They have their running back. They have a tight end. They have a wide receiver. They have some good pieces on defense. Like, I think with a good coach and a competent coach, even, I think they could be, pretty solid. I think they could be decent. Number two, if I'm looking at coaching vacancies, I don't think you can go wrong with Jacksonville. I think, they're going to have a top quarterback prospect. As I mentioned, they have a couple, very few, but very good key pieces. And number three, I mean, you're comparing the Jets, who have good cap space, the Texans, the Falcons, and the Lions. I mean, out of those three, I think I'm taking the Lions if I'm a head coach, just because the Jets are the Jets. They don't have a ton of talent on the team that I see. And yeah, they have a lot of room to improve. They have a lot of room to fix it. But if you're just the head coach, that's not fully up to you. And I think, the Jets are not going to get their top quarterback prospect. They're going to get a good quarterback for sure. But, so I think the Lions sit at 3. I think if I'm a head coach looking for a job, I take LA first because they have a lot of pieces and a decent cap space and good draft picks. I'm taking Jacksonville second because they have all this room and all this, thing to improve. They got 100 million cap space and 10 draft picks. I'm looking number 3. It's between either New York or Detroit. I think Detroit has a much better starting roster, but I think the Jets have a lot more capital to improve on the roster. So as a head coach, though, if I'm looking at, right now, what can I work with? I'm picking Detroit over New York. I'm definitely picking Detroit over Houston. I'm definitely picking Detroit over Atlanta. Like, it's just I genuinely think Detroit is one of the better spots for a head coach right now, and I think it's a better spot for a general manager than a lot of other teams looking for jobs. Um, oh, I hate Flowers' contract. You overpay. Yeah, the Flowers contract is incredibly overpaid. That I think we can all agree on for sure. I don't think Romeo's season was a fluke at all. I mean, you look at what he's accomplished in Detroit. His first year, he had 7.5 sacks. Last year was kind of a down season because he didn't get a lot of playing time. And this year, he got significant playing time again and got double digit sacks. I mean, you look at his time in Detroit. He gets 7 to 10 sacks more consistently than he doesn't. So I mean, I don't think Romeo's season was a fluke. Was his? I mean, if you truly watch his play this season, he could realistically have had 12, 13 sacks. I mean, he missed one on Kyler Murray. He missed a couple. He missed one at Atlanta. He missed one in Jacksonville. I mean, he missed two in Jacksonville even. Like, realistically, Romeo could have had 12, 13 sacks this season. And, I mean, good thing he didn't, because that would just make the number of his contract go up even higher. But I mean, I'm not saying Romeo's the answer at pass rusher. I'm not saying he's the best pass rusher in the NFL. I'm not saying we don't need more guys in the front seven to pass rush with Romeo, but I mean, he's a solid player. He's going to get you 7 to 10 sacks a season, and I truly believe that. I mean, you give him solid, consistent playing time, Romeo's going to get you 7.5 to 10 sacks. Romeo Okwara is going to be a consistently good pass rusher for you. And the one thing I really like about Romeo is, one, he shows up in big moments. If you need a big play to be made, genuinely and generally, he will make it. Generally, Romeo Okwara gets that strip sack when you need it. We saw that 2 different times this season. One thing I really like is he rips at the ball. When he's going for the quarterback, he doesn't want the sack. He wants the football. And that's something I think that is an underrated value in him. I think a very underrated value for him is just he wants the football more than anything, and I think he's very good at getting it. But I don't think Romeo's season was a fluke at all. I think that for the first time in his career, he got consistent playing time. I would assume you meant he reminds me of Armstead in San Francisco. Yeah, but Armstead is not a bad player. Like, what's his first name? I know who you're talking about. Armstead in San Francisco. I get that. I kind of like that comparison a little bit, but I would take Armstead. I would take him on my team. Like, he's not a guy that I would pay $90 million to, like Trey Flowers. He's not a guy that I would give a massive, like, end all be all, contract to, but he's a guy that's consistent, a guy that, I can rely on and depend on for a lot of the season to be a consistent pressure, a consistent threat. How much am I willing to pay, though? I think that's a complicated question. I think number one first off, you got to get the GM here, right? Before we can talk about re-signing players, you got to get a GM and a coach here, because they're the ones making the decision. 1 second. I mean, I'm not sure how much I'm willing to pay him, but like, I'm not going to give him elite money, but I'd give him a decent sized contract. I mean, he was top 10 in the NFL this year in sacks. I'd give him a decent contract, and again, One Pride says we just need an elite pass rusher. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that we need an elite pass rusher, but I think Romeo Okwara, if you get that elite pass rusher to go alongside him, that's just going to make Romeo look even better than he already is. Like, I think Romeo could be a very good combination. He can be a very good player to go with Romeo, or what? I don't even know what I just said. I got lost what I was saying. I think Romeo can be a very good complementary pass rusher to somebody else that is elite. And I think that could fix our front seven right there. I think Danny Shelton's good in the interior, taking up and eating up blocks with John Pennicini. So I genuinely don't think the Lions are in that bad of a situation. Nice throw and catch by Josh Allen over the middle to Stephon Diggs. What position am I taking at 7? It depends who's on the board for me, because I'm not going to reach for a quarterback if I don't believe the quarterback on the board is the best player available. right? I'm not going to reach and I'm not going to draft Micah Parsons if I believe there's a better player available on the board. So if I'm a coach, if I'm a GM drafting at 7 and I'm looking at the team, I think you just got to wait and see. Ideally, if I could have anybody in the draft at number 7, Tony Holly says the Bills are looking good. The Bills are looking good. They look very, very solid. They're up 14-10 right now, early in the third quarter. But at number 7, it depends. I love Micah Parsons. I think he's very good. I think you can go anything in the front 7. I don't think you need a defensive tackle, and I don't think there's a defensive tackle worth taking top 7. But I think you could, I don't think we need D tackle anyway because I like Hand, I like Pennicini, and I like Shelton a lot. But as far as pass rusher, you got either Quiddy Pay or you have, or sorry, edge rusher. So as edge rusher, you got Quiddy Pay out of Michigan. You have Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. Both of them I think are relatively good. A guy like Bud Dupree, if he's available in free agency, I'd be all in for going for him. I think he's a solid pass rusher. He's, a very good player, and he's been a starter on a very good defense for a long time. Like at number 7, it depends who's there. If I have a pick out of anybody, I'm taking Micah Parsons. I think we need to draft a quarterback or bring in a quarterback this offseason to get groomed under Stafford, but I don't think it has to be at 7. I think Kyle Trask will likely be there in the second. Mac Jones will likely be there in the second. Sam Ehlinger, I'm not a big fan of him, but I know some people like Sam Ehlinger. He might be there. Like the quarterback class is relatively deep. And I'm not convinced that if we don't get a top 4 guy, that we're not going to get our quarterback of the future. I think Kyle Trask shows a lot of flash and a lot of promise as a young quarterback. You look at Mac Jones. I mean, he's top in the Heisman hunt right now. I don't like Hand. He been hurt every year he been here. I mean, Deshaun Hand's injury concerns are concerning, but when he's on the field, he's a good player. If Zach Wilson is there at 7, would you take him? It depends who else is on the board, like I said. Like if Micah Parsons is there, I'm taking Micah Parsons. If Jamar Chase somehow falls to number 7, as much as, I don't think we should take a wide receiver in the top 10, Jamar Chase is something different. So I think you have to consider that if he's somehow on the board. If Penny Sewell is kind of on the board still, if somehow he falls to 7, I think you take him. It's a very difficult question now because I don't know who's going to be on the board at 7, right? You look at, Zach Wilson. I like Zach Wilson. I like Zach Wilson a lot as a quarterback. But if I'm looking at, either Zach Wilson and if I have the choice between Zach Wilson in the first round and Dylan Moses in the second, or if I'm looking at Micah Parsons in the first and Kyle Trask in the second, genuinely, I'm going to take Micah Parsons and Kyle Trask. Obviously you don't know who's going to fall. You don't know when players are going to go on the board that, you're not a part of. But, I don't think you have to take Wilson at 7 if he's there. You definitely got to consider it for sure. But I don't think you have to bring him in, or I don't think you have to, draft him just because he happens to be there, right? I mean, I think it all depends on who's available when you're picking, who else is available in the class as you go down. And I think there's a lot of different factors to consider. If Zach Wilson's there at 7, do I take him? I'd consider it. I think long and hard. I take 15 minutes and really ponder, is Zach Wilson my future? But, and I guess until I know who else is on the board, it's a tough one to answer. So let's see, getting back on the Bills game, just checking back in. Josh Allen just got kind of stuck on a 3rd and 2. Let's see. And the kick is good for the Bills. All right, so we got 5 people in here now. I don't know who's all here. I don't know who's all coming back. I don't know who is who, of course, because all I see is a number. But if you could answer that question down in the bottom corner, I would be super appreciative. I'm just curious if you guys are Lions fans. Would you like to see like a weekly Lions talk on Sunday? Obviously, there's no games on right now for the Lions, so would you like to see me come on, invite some guests on, have some Lions talk, go over the future, go over I'm sure there will be a ton of arguments. I'm sure there will be a lot of debating. It should be a fun time. If you'd be interested in that, be very, let me know. I'd be super curious. I know Devin99 says he thinks that'd be fire. I like Jamar, but wait on wideouts. We lack athletes everywhere. Yeah, like I said, it's a tough one because one, I don't know how our free agency looks, right? I don't know if we sign Corey Davis. I don't know if we sign Curtis Samuel. I don't know if we maybe can somehow find a way to sign Chris Godwin. I just until I see free agency, I think it's hard to talk who I'm drafting where because the team today and the team 3 months from now, 4 months from now is going to look very, very different. So I think it's hard to question. But if I'm going off right now, Micah Parsons is my guy. If Shaq Barrett is available, I'll take him. If Shaq Barrett is available, I'm throwing the house at Shaq Barrett because he is a good, consistent pass rusher. And I mean, he's man, you pair Shaq Barrett, that's Robert Sala's next Joey Bosa, or that's Robert Sala's next, Nick Bosa. That's his guy. That's the guy that is going to be his elite pass rusher for years. And I would not be mad. I would throw the house at Shaq Barrett if he were on the market. Um, so yeah, I mean, if Shaq Barrett's there, I'll absolutely take him. I'd definitely do that. Um, let's see what else is going on in the world. I know there's only one playoff game on right now. Let's see. I feel like the Bills are in a weird situation. They're just like I feel like they're not throw. I mean, granted, I haven't been super invested in this game, but I don't know, man. It'd be super. I mean, the Bills are a good team, and I mean, I had the Bills winning by 10-14. I think I said that. I have the Bills winning by double digits, but I mean, the Colts are keeping it very, very close. And I wasn't expecting a blowout or anything, but yeah, I mean, this game's a fun one so far. This game's, I mean, good and close. 1 second. Detroit Lions. Just I need like a good picture. I can use that. I can use that. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna go put a post on my Instagram really quickly. If you want to go over and vote, you can. If not, you don't have to. It's Instagram. It's just right or wrong 33. If you type it in, you'll find it. Or if you just type in right or wrong, you'll probably find it. So, Super Bowl picks. I have the Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. And I statistically, the Green Bay Packers are better, but I'm really hoping the Bills win that game. So that's kind of where I stand on that one. I have the Bills and I have the Packers in the Super Bowl. I have the Bills beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and I have the Green Bay Packers, I think, beating New Orleans. Solid coverage by 24. Um, sorry, I'm typing something and it's kind of hard to speak and commentate when I'm typing. So I'm in the Bills, 3rd and 7 for the Buffalo Bill, or 3rd and 7 for the Indianapolis Colts at the Bills 32. Big play here. Let's see what happens. Philip is checking. Oh, they got pressure. That's good enough though. I remember when we were getting blasted for taking Hawkinson over Oliver. Hey, Hawkinson's a good player. Um, a we Lions talk. Uh, I'm sure there will lots of. Then we'll put a poll. All right, I'd be interested to see what you guys think about that. If y'all want to go over and vote on that one, that'd be cool. It's just on my Instagram if you guys want to go over there. So you don't have to. You don't have to go vote if you don't want to. But it's a question I had for you guys, and I'd be super interested to hear where you guys stand with that one. It'd be fun to just be, talking Lions for an hour, 2 hours, maybe somewhere in there. I guess until we get bored, really. All right, let's see. The Colts dropping back. Phillip Rivers unloading it right to the tight end. Man, bro, Phillip Rivers has like the ugliest release ever. Like he has the worst release by a quarterback I might have ever seen. Um, man, bro, like what kind of release is that? It's crazy. How does Phillip Rivers throw the ball, man? I don't get it. Let's see it. Come on, Buffalo. Don't make me look stupid. Don't make me look dumb. Jonathan Taylor has so much power, man. I love DeAndre Swift, and I would not give up DeAndre Swift for Jonathan Taylor per se, but I think Jonathan Taylor is the best pure running back in the class. But what do y'all think about Jonathan? What do you think about JT? And we could have had TJ and JT on the same team. That could have been like a T-shirt. That would have been sick. I love DeAndre though. I love DeAndre Swift so much. He's such a good player. Let's see. We will motion into the backfield. Let's see what's going on, everybody. Hmm. Lions have put a request to interview Todd Bowles. Huh. Well, that's an interesting. It's an interesting turn of events. I don't know if y'all heard that, so I'll say it one more time. That by Mike Garafolo, the Lions have put in a request to interview Buccaneers defensive coordinator Todd Bowles for the vacant head coaching position. Wow. Very, very interesting. All right, got a couple. You think two is a bust? I don't think two is a bust yet. But from what I have seen from him this season, I'm not super impressed. From what I have seen from Tua, I think he'll be an average game manager for his career, which you can absolutely win with. I think the Dolphins have a roster where you can absolutely win with that average game manager type player as your quarterback. And I think even with average offensive play, the Dolphins can win a lot of games. But I mean, I don't think he's a top 5 player from this draft class. I don't think that he is. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that he lived up to the hype, and I don't think he's going to. But I'm not going to tell you that he's a bust yet. I think Oliver got benched. Oliver's still in there. Oliver's still playing. He's just getting rotated around a lot. That's what the Bills tend to do. They like to rotate their guys. I like JT. I like JT as well. Imagine if we had Rag and Nelson next to each other, bro. If we had Rag now and Nelson, or yeah, if we had dude, what's his name? Quentin Nelson. If we had Quentin Nelson and Frank Ragnow on that offensive line with Taylor Decker as our left tackle, Jonah Jackson as our right guard, like that would be the most elite offensive line in the NFL, bro. Like we would never have to throw the ball because we could literally hand it to DeAndre Swift and he could walk through the hole. Like he would not even have to like lightly jog. DeAndre Swift with Ragnow and Matt, and I keep saying Matt Nelson, with Quentin Nelson and Frank Ragnow as the left guard and the center. Bro, Frank Ragnow and they would open up such crazy holes for any running back. They would literally walk. They would not even have to they would not even have to lightly jog. That would be the most elite oh my god. I love Quentin Nelson. I'm upset that he wasn't able to fall to us. Because who did we was that the TJ draft? No. Who did we take in that draft with Quentin Nelson? Was that the TJ Hawkinson draft? I feel like that was the year before. I feel like that was the year before, but I could be wrong. Quentin Nelson. Bro, what year did he get drafted in? Um, bro, I pressed charges. I think everybody would. The why, like, that's so crazy. They would actually like murder people. He was drafted in 2018. Was that when Hawkinson was drafted too? Was that actually the Hawkinson draft? I feel like those two were definitely not the same. Oh, Hawkinson. What? He was the 19th draft. Okay, so I was right. Quentin Nelson was the um. Then who did the Lions draft in that class? Was who? Oh, was that the Ragnow class? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That would have been crazy though. Imagine I mean obviously that would be impossible, but imagine if a team was able to get Frank Ragnow and any team, like not even just the Lions. Imagine if any team, like the Lions somehow they pass on Frank Ragnow and then say the Colts drafted him in the second round. Like that would be the craziest offensive line. That would be the craziest offensive line in like history probably. Let's see. The Colts are driving. They're putting up a nice drive. Oh, bad throw by Phillip. Bad throw by Phillip. It's all right. It happens. It happens. That's all right. It happens. It's a bad throw, but I'm not super pressed about it. It's not my quarterback that's missing the throws. It ain't my quarterback. Uh, it kind of scares me that we're interviewing Todd Bowles. Oh, he missed it. Oh, the Colts kicker just missed the field goal. That's not good for them. Man. Of all the times Rodrigo Blankenship was going to miss a field goal, it had to be in the playoffs, huh? It had to be in the playoffs, huh? Wow. Whoa. I feel like I might not do the rest of the playoffs until the Super Bowl. Like we just don't talk about the playoff game a ton, and there's not a. I thought maybe more Colts fans and more Bucking or Bull. I said Bulls. More Bills fans would show up. They haven't really, or at least I haven't seen a whole lot of them. Um, so I might just instead of doing playoff talks, I might just do. I might just do Lions talks, and then obviously do the Super Bowl when we do the Super Bowl. But I agree, we do have a good offensive line. I would like to complete. I love to complete the offensive line. I mean, I don't like Big V particularly a lot, but I mean, I think at the, I mean, we have at least three of the five positions filled. You definitely need another guard, but I don't know. I don't know where you're gonna get that guard. I guess you could maybe take a look at Wyatt Davis, who was pretty good out of Ohio State. Um, and then your right tackle, like Crosby was all right, but he was, injury prone a little bit. I don't know. It'll be very interesting. If we can complete our offensive line, that would be huge. If we could get Stafford like a wide receiver that can actually catch the ball, that'd be sick. No disrespect to our wide receivers, of course, but they had a lot of drops this year. So if we can like catch the football consistently next year, and we get a couple more good offensive linemen, I think we could see a fantastic offense. But I'd love for one time in his career for Stafford to have a good offensive line. And like this year, I thought it was good, but it could definitely be better. And I'd like to see one year. I would love to see Stafford just have like a top 10 offensive line in the NFL, an offensive line that can protect him and is not going to allow stupid sacks. Like that would be the dream, I think. It's so weird for it to be a playoff. It looks like a preseason game, man. It looks like a playoff, or it looks like a preseason game. There's no fans in the stadiums. Like it's just not good. Yeah, nah. I got you one Pride 40. I feel that. They're running a lot with Josh Allen. I don't know if they usually. I mean, I know they have done it before, but did they always run this much with him? I guess I'm unaware. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I like Zach Moss too. I didn't think he would go as early as he did, but I like Zach Moss coming out as well. He's just a very powerful, consistent guy that's going to get you a lot of yards. Obviously, I would not have drafted him over DeAndre Swift by any means, or Jonathan Taylor, or J.K. or Cam Akers or anybody like that. But I like Zach Moss coming out. I thought he could have been a real good value late pick, but or separate. I don't know. What do you mean or separate? Oh, or separate. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to see who they hire a general manager. I'm hoping for, I'm really, really hoping for Rick Smith. Like, that would be my ideal guy, but, oh, Josh, get DeForest Buckner is like really good, people. DeForest Buckner is really good. Very good. Man, that was a heck of a play. Colts have a very good defense. And I don't know. Well, like you look at the Colts defense, and it's like, who's great on that defense, right? Like they have statistically, and they play as if they're a top defense in the NFL. But if you look at it on paper, like they got Darius Leonard, who's sick. They got DeForest Buckner, who's amazing. Other than that, like I feel like the Colts overachieve what the roster should be able to do every single year. And that's a lot. I mean, big ups to their defensive coordinator for that. But yeah. I feel. I don't know, that song stuck in my head. Come on, Josh, what you gonna do? Decent catch, decent catch. Not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. Who's on the sideline? Who's that? Oh, is that Philip Rivers? Well, I mean, this is not a bad football game. This is not a bad way to kick it off. I thought the Bills might be a little bit more dominant. I would expect, I guess, a little bit more offensive firepower from the Bills. But again, I mean, they're playing a great defense, so it's not like I can fault them for it. Not like I can fault them for it. But we'll see. We'll see. Would you draft Paris Ford next year? I love Paris Ford. Paris Ford is one of my sleeper guys, and we'll definitely be doing a prospect breakdown on him. He is really good. Paris Ford is incredibly underrated, and I would love to see Paris Ford as a Detroit Lion. He's a hard hitter, man. He is an athlete. He's fast. He hits hard. I love Paris Ford. I think he's probably one of my top sleepers in the draft. Wideouts to get open. Yeah. I got it. We don't hire another coordinator. We need to hire head coaches. I'm good with hiring Marvin out of Cincinnati or going down and getting a head coach out of the college level, but no more core. I mean, but like, if you hire Marvin Lewis, well, one, he's a defensive coordinator right now. Marvin Lewis is a defensive coordinator in college. But I mean, like, if you get a head coach, like you get a former head coach, you know exactly what you're getting in a head coach. Like, you know exactly what you're getting from them. And there's a reason they were fired in the first place. Like, I like experience. I like experience. I like having a guy that's proven. I like having a guy that I know can be successful and a guy that I know, can do his job to the best of his abilities. But at the same time, coordinators, I mean, every head coach at one point in time was every head coach was a coordinator at some time. Nobody enters the NFL as a head coach and becomes successful. So, I mean, I think just strictly limiting yourself to average at best head coaches, I just don't think that's smart. Buckner is great. I don't know Bobby Okereke. I mean, I've heard the name, but it's not like a household name. I don't even know who that third guy is. Darius Leonard, I mentioned. Autry is a good pass rusher, but like they're not elite. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not all elite guys. They're not even all guys that I would consider above average, but they're all playing to a very high standard, and I think that's a very good sign by their coach. I think the Saints have the most complete roster. I mean, I think the Saints are definitely up there. I mean, there's not a lot of holes you're gonna find with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously the quarterback play in the playoffs for them has been suspect the past couple of years. Good moves by Zach Moss. Um, the quarterback play has been suspect for them the past couple years in the playoffs, but I still think you can win with Drew Brees. Obviously the Saints can still win with Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara is an elite running back. He's great in the rushing and the receiving game. You look at is Latavius Murray still there? I think he's a good backup, change of pace, bruiser kind of a back. You got Michael Thomas who isn't even playing. That's how stacked they are. You got obviously Emmanuel Sanders, who's a very good wide receiver. You got some good depth behind them. They have a solid offensive line. They have a very good defense. Like I think they are they're a top defense, or they're a top team. They're a very complete roster. They are a very good roster. They're a roster that if I was a Saints fan, if I was somebody in the Saints organization, I would be more than, oh, the knee's definitely down. But if I'm a Saints fan, I feel more than confident in my team. Oh, that's a broken ankle, bro. Yeah, Justin Houston is pretty good, but he's kind of on the older side. But yeah, he's still relatively solid as well. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I know the players on the Colts. Like I know who they are. I just don't think, other than Leonard Buckner and maybe Justin Houston. I mean, they don't have that much elite talent on the team. So, but again, they're playing better than their parts. So that's a good thing. I like Justin Houston a lot. I think Justin Houston's a very good pass rusher, and I think if he's available this offseason, I think he's a guy that the Lions can and should consider pursuing as a potential guy to bring in yet again. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Justin Houston's a good player for sure. So I mean, it's a fun one. It should be interesting. Uh, Nice commercial. But like I don't know. I feel like the Colts are just not on the same level as a lot of the other teams in the AFC, and I might feel bad. I kind of. I mean, obviously, I can't say a whole lot about another person's team because my team is bad, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know a lot about Okariki, but I've heard his name a bunch of times. So, I mean, I know he's not a bad player, but I guess I never thought of him as that, top quality. Oh, excuse me, top candidate. Michael Thomas. What about Michael Thomas? He's still there. Michael Thomas, like the wide receiver for the Saints. I mentioned him. I'm pretty sure, but I don't think he's playing. Wasn't he like suspended by the team? I don't think Michael Thomas had like a single receiving touchdown this year. I know he's still there, like on the team, but I don't know if he's playing. He's been inactive all season, and I don't know why they would activate him just for the playoffs. I mean, he's a great wide receiver. Like that's not what I'm saying, but just he's a very weird situation because yeah, he's a great player, but he's been suspended by the team all year, and I feel like the Saints perform better as a team when Michael Thomas isn't there. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Zach Moss just broke his foot or broke his ankle. Demario Davis, Trey Henderson. Yeah, Demario Davis and Trey Henderson are very good players. Yep, yep. Like I said, I think they're one of, if not the most complete roster in the NFL. That one we agreed on one pride. I mean, I think. Ooh, deep shot. Oh, what a throw to Stephon Diggs. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That was quite the connection. Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints are stacked, man. Saints are good. They got Marshawn Lattimore too on the back end. I mean, they got some good players. I think that might be ball game. I know it's early in the fourth, but I think that might be ball game. That's touchdown. Man, that was a nice throw. Genuinely, I mean, hot take. What if Ed Dodds is overrated? I mean, that's not a hot take, more so than a question. But I mean, I don't. We're not getting Ed Dodds. I can tell you that much. The Lions will not be hiring Ed Dodds to be their their general manager, which kind of sucks. I like Ed Dodds a lot, but we're not getting him. I'm pretty sure we didn't do him. Anthony Walker's good. I was doing research on the Colts. Anthony Walker is a good player. He's very underrated, statistically with uh, right up there with Darius Leonard. So I did forget about him. Anthony Walker is an incredibly good player. I like him a lot. I do like him a lot. In fact, I do like him. So yeah, that one I'll give you. I forgot about him. Um, yeah, I mean the Colts got good players. Obviously, they're in the playoffs for a reason. I guess I just don't consider them a part of elite company, but I think they're a good ball club. Man, Stephon Diggs, what a trade by Buffalo. I mean, they gave up a lot for him, but I mean, they gave up a ton for him, but I mean, it's paying off more than I mean, I think it's working out for both sides because obviously the Vikings got Justin Jefferson. Yeah, that was not a fun one, but they got Justin Jefferson. The Bills got Stephon Diggs. Bro, that looked like a drop. Looked like he just dropped it. They read that extremely well by the Colts. You might be feeling a shift if you're Buffalo. That's true. Bro, whose mom brought an orange slices? Like, what's up with that? Oh, what a pop by Jordan Poyer. And Naheem Hines bounced right off. Ryder, this is really football. Lol. I don't know what we're watching with the Lions, man. My opinion on the Packers roster, I think they're good. I mean, I like obviously they're the number one scoring offense. I think Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP season. You have two All Pros on the offensive line. You have an All Pro in Devontae Adams in your receiving core. Like, I think it's a relative. I mean, I think it's a very good offense. Obviously, Aaron Jones is really good. On the defense, they got some players. I like Darnell Savage. I like Jair Alexander. I like the Smith brothers. Kenny Clark's very good. I think the Packers have a very legit roster. I think they have a very good roster. And as a Lions fan who's played them twice this season, like they're a good football team. They're a good ball club. Bills kicking it. I mean, the Bills are they're by 14, so they're doing pretty good. I had it 24-14 Bills is the prediction on your other bit. I saw that, Tony. I saw that. Um, I don't think the Indianapolis Colts are gonna quite get to 14 points. Unless somehow they score two safeties or a field goal and weird like 1 point conversion play, but you're definitely gonna be close. You're definitely gonna be close. Okay. Well, the Colts are driving too, and I don't think this game is over. I mean, I think the Bills are in a great situation, but they're running out of time too. The Colts are, so the Colts are running out of time. What's up, One Pride? Says Doctor Detroit. All right, so now that a couple more people are back and commenting, I got a question. Would y'all be interested? I've been doing this playoffs, but we, mostly talk about the Lions here anyway. Instead of doing like playoff games where I get on and we kind of talk about the Lions, would you guys be interested if we just kind of did a Lions talk every Sunday? If we just, show up, we just kind of talk Lions, talk about the future. We can have talks about Matt Stafford. We can have talks about free agency. Oh, my dog's barking because somebody's home. Um, sorry. But we just talk about the Lions. We talk about, you know, coaches. We talk about news. We talk about the future. Would y'all be interested in that? Showing up on Sunday for an hour, 2 hours, maybe, or just I'm just curious. I'm trying to get some things going. Trying to obviously with the NFL offseason being, it's obviously the off season. We obviously don't have games to watch for our Lions, but yes, do Lions talk, dude. Nobody going nowhere for a few. Lol. All right, all right. I'll probably do that. Next week it'll probably be more like directly Lions talk. They probably won't have playoff stuff in the background. It probably won't have the title Bills versus Colts playoff game, but um, yeah, I mean, I think it could be fun. I think it could be a fun one. Could be fun. I could invite you guys on if you want, Dr. Detroit. I know you could be on if you want for a Lions talk. We could get One Pride 40 on if he wants. We could get Tony. We could get One Pride Nation. Kool-Aid and Cornbread if he wants to be on. I haven't seen him in a while, but he could be on. We could invite some of you. We could have quite the fun interaction. I think we could bring on different Lions fans, get different opinions. I think it could be a fun development. I think it could be a fun development. All right. Let's see. What's the flag? Rodrigo Blankenship missed the field goal earlier. Funny. Funny, funny, funny. But yeah, it's an interesting one. They just got a touchdown. As long as you don't have a bunch of kids coming and saying people are not fair. Nah. I mean, I'll bring in like people that know what they're talking about. People that have decent things to add. I'd love to have a conversation like in real life, in real time with you, Doctor. I'd love to have you on for one. Because I feel like we would have quite the conversation. I feel like we could have a couple real nice debates and arguments, but I think it could be fun. Obviously, if I'll do my best to make sure they actually know what they're talking about, but if you know anybody that wants to be on, if you want to be on, just you can hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, anything like that. I think it could be fun. Oh, the Bills just got a nice stop on the 2-pointer. Bills just got the stop. Doggy, come here. Hey, come here. I know there are people outside walking around. You probably want to go outside, huh? Or do you know football because God is as good as Calvin? Things like God, no, God is not as good as Calvin. I think. Oh, is my mic on? Yeah, we're good. No, Kenny's not as good as Calvin. They have very similar skill sets. They're very similar wide receivers, but it's gonna take a lot before somebody convinces me that anybody is better than Calvin Johnson. Obviously, outside the Randy Mosses and the Jerry Rices, but if you're gonna tell me a current wide receiver in the NFL is better than Calvin Johnson, we might have issues. We might have problems. We very much might not get along. So, but it could be fun. I don't know. Opinion. I don't know a lot about George Patton. We talked about this a little earlier. I don't know a lot about him. I don't know a lot about his history. I don't know a lot about his drafting and all that. So I'm gonna do research because that name was brought up to me today. So I'll look into it. I'll definitely do my research. I'll definitely get some things going, and I'll definitely, by next weekend, when we do a Lions talk, I'll definitely have some info on that. But as of right now, I'm uneducated on the subject, uneducated on the person and their history. So I don't have a very solid or valid opinion on him right now because I don't know a lot. But I'll definitely get back to it when know more, and when I look into it. No way. We have a game? Oh my god. That's so cool. Alrighty. But like, I don't know. I think it could be fun. I think it could be fun. Alrighty. But this game though, this game's kind of interesting. What are your guys' playoff predictions for the rest of it? I had the Bills winning this game. I think everybody had the Bills winning this game. Hot take, Khalil Mack. Uh, I mean, he's definitely not. I don't think he's the dominant force that he was a couple years ago. I think he's still a good player, um, but I definitely don't think Khalil Mack. I don't know if he'll ever be as dominant as he was the year the Bears went 12-4. I mean, he was different, man. He was so good that year. He wreaked havoc, and he's still a very good player, but I do think he's on the decline. I don't think he's quite as good as what he was. I think that's a fair statement. And I would always argue for it because I like making Bears fans upset. Because I like making Bears fans not happy. But it'll be fun. Let's see. This is a big drive for Bills. This is a big drive for Buffalo. Let's see. Josh Allen with the ball, dropping back, dropping back, dropping back. 2-yard catch by Cole Beasley. Right at the sidelines. I feel like if the Bills can get a nice long touchdown drive, they'll be set. They'll be good to go. It'd be really embarrassing if my Super Bowl team for the AFC um, loses in the wild card, but you know, I don't think they will. I think they're solid enough where they can get it done. This is big. This is big. Josh Allen has the playoff experience now. Stephon Diggs with a nice catch and run. Well, the Vikings draft very well. The Vikings have drafted very well. Yeah, I'll say that. The Vikings have. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's very good. I mean, I'm pretty sure they drafted Anthony Barr. They drafted Harrison Smith. I'm pretty sure they drafted Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter. And who was their defensive tackle for a long time? Linval Joseph, I think. They drafted him. The Vikings have drafted very well for a while now. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, the Vikings do draft very well. Dude, what a nice throw and catch. So before Nick, you thought Houston was the least attractive job. Um, I mean, I think Houston is the most least attractive job. I mean, you're the third, as far as record wise and all that. You would hold the third overall draft pick if you didn't trade it away. So you're one of the worst organizations right now as far as talent in the NFL. You don't have a first round pick, nor do you have a second round draft pick to even take advantage of your losing season. You got zero cap space. You have a lot of bad contracts on the roster. I genuinely think Houston is the worst coaching and head coaching spot you could go as a general manager. But obviously, maybe Nick saw it a little differently than I did. But I mean, even now, that's even worse because now you likely, as as things seem to be going, now you don't have Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, you hire this general manager without even talking to Deshaun, and all of a sudden, Deshaun doesn't want to be there anymore. So now, not only do you not have any talent, now not only do you not have any draft picks, now not only do you not have any cap space, now you don't have a quarterback either. I think the one attractive part of Houston was you get to work with Deshaun Watson, but if Deshaun Watson's not there, that's not a positive anymore. So, where do you go if you are Houston, right? Why they don't have an intriguing thing about them other than JJ Watt, who's in his 30s and very well could retire soon. I mean, you have a bad contract with David Johnson. You have a bad contract with Brandon Cooks. You got a insane contract with their left tackle. You got, a big contract with JJ. You got some other not great contracts on defense. Like, it's not an attractive job. If I'm looking at Houston, there's not an attractive or enticing part about that job that I would want to take. I don't know if anybody sees it differently than I do, but it's just to me, it's the least exciting job. Are they going for it on 4th and 6? There's no way, dude. They're gonna hard count probably. Timeout. Call timeout. I was gonna say, there's no way, man. There is no way. You can't realistically go for it on 4th and 6, man. Not in that situation, at least. I like Brian Dable a lot too. I wouldn't be mad if we were to interview him. That's crazy. That's wild. What? Is it real? Stop, Shadow. You're like kind of loud. Is there something happening with Robert Saleh? Because I just keep seeing things. I get that actually. That's what I was thinking. The first thing I saw when I saw the Texans hired him and the coaches that they're looking at, I thought this is such a Lions thing to do. This is such a Lions thing, right? You go from a head coach and a general manager from New England who ruined your roster, and you're gonna go and double dip right back into New England with not only the GM but likely the coaches as well. Like, I just feel that's such a Lions thing to do that it's almost not funny. It is funny. Don't get me wrong. It is funny. That man's not happy. Which man is not happy? Deshaun Watson's not happy. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you what. Deshaun Watson is not happy. That was a monster's kick. It was a nice kick by the Bills. It was solid. That was right through the uprights. There was no doubt. That's gotta be weird though. Like, as a kicker, like, he could hear all of his teammates clapping, like, not screaming, not cheering. Like, he could probably hear all of his teammates just sitting there. That's gotta be such a weird feeling, especially as an NFL kicker. Here's the thousands of people cheering in the playoffs, and all of a sudden it's just like, well, that's cool. It's like, good job. You did your job. Like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be so weird to play as a professional athlete. Like, it would be really weird for them to play in front of nobody. Because those guys have probably never played in front of that few fans. Like, I would assume that they've never had nobody in the stands. It's gotta be a weird experience. This Bills team is fun. This Bills team is very fun. This Bills team is incredibly fun. That is something I will say. This Bills team is great. This Bills team is it's fun to watch, man. I mean, it's what I want our Lions to be. I want us to have a good defense. I want us to have a big gunslinger quarterback. I want us to go deep. I want us to have a good offense. I want us to have a good defense. Like, it's just it's what I want my Lions to be, which I think is why I resonate with the team so much and why I root for the team. But I don't know. This Bills team is incredibly fun to watch. Oh, I want pizza, man. Looks good. Looks good. If Houston wants to make Watson happy, you hire Dable. Yeah, I think that's a. I think that's something that could help because. Well, I think part of the reason Watson's upset is because the owner told him that he would have a impact on the hiring of the GM and the head coach, and he didn't give Watson that chance. And Houston doesn't want Brian Dable. Houston wants Josh McDaniels, and personally, I think that'll make things worse. Right now, if I'm the owner and I want Deshaun Watson, if I want my quarterback to be happy, if I want my quarterback to be happy in Deshaun Watson, I'm asking him, who do you want as head coach? And then, at that point, go from there. But you don't tell your franchise quarterback he's going to have a say and then don't give him a say. Like, that's just not smart. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, my guy? How you doing? Got a little playoff game going today. Got a little bit of a playoff game. It's a fun one. 27-16. Going to the Bills right now. Bro, that's weird to hear them going through Nickelodeon. How strange. The Colts got to hurry stuff up though. If you want Watson, you hire Bieniemy. I don't like Eric Bieniemy. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Eric Bieniemy. I get Matt Patricia vibes from him, and that scares me a ton as a Lions fan that just had Matt Patricia. I get Matt Patricia vibes from Eric Bieniemy. I don't personally like him as a coach. I don't personally want him as my head coach. I wish him all the best. I wish him all the luck, and I hope he does do well. But I don't think he will. That's my hot take of the offseason, I guess, is I don't think Bieniemy is going to be that good as a head coach. Personally, I don't. Yes, but Houston hiring would be a Lions thing to do. It's funny when it happens to the other team and not the Lions. I feel you, man. I feel you. Did Rivers throw picks? I want him to have a bad game so he loses his starting job in Indy. Rivers is not throwing any picks, but he's missed a couple throws. Um, I mean, he's not having a bad game per se, but he's not having a great game per se. Devin 99 says, yeah, Watson wanted them or told them that he wants Eric Bieniemy. I mean, yeah, I get if you want to fix the relationship with Watson, you hire Eric Bieniemy. But I think if you want the best offensive coordinator, then I think you go Brian Dable. Um, just watching them, I think Brian Dable will be a better head coach than Eric Bieniemy. I don't like Eric Bieniemy, but I think Deshaun Watson really wants him. Deshaun Watson really likes Eric Bieniemy, wants him to be the head coach. So I think that there's always that. But I don't think it's gonna happen just because yeah, I know you wanted Bieniemy. I'm just giving you my opinion on the situation. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think Eric Bieniemy will go there. Just I've heard some things that I think I saw that he's going to be the head coach of the Jets, or that's what people are thinking right now. Like, obviously, things are going to change as interviews and all that, and other people get hired. And oh, that was a busted coverage. That was not good. That was not what happened there. That was a busted coverage. Philip Rivers is the ugliest release I've ever seen. I don't know if Dave will be a head coach. He's not down on the fields interacting with the players. Yeah, that's true. That's something to consider. But I don't think Eric Bieniemy. I think a lot of his success comes from Andy Reid. Very similarly to how a lot of Patricia's success came from Belichick. Like I just get a lot of Matt Patricia vibes from Bieniemy, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. Yeah, Indy's back in it, man. It's a 3-point game. If I was the Texans, I'd go get Joe Brady. I wish the Lions at least gave him a look. I don't like Joe Brady personally. It's not that I don't like Joe Brady. I just think he's so raw. I think he's so, and I did a video on this. So, I mean, if you want like extensive thoughts, then you can obviously go watch that. But for me, he's so unproven. He's so young and so inexperienced that I don't. And even last year he didn't have a great NFL season. I mean, the Panthers didn't have this great offense. I saw some good things from the offense, but if I'm the Lions, I can't draft Joe Brady just because he's so young and so inexperienced and hasn't really had that NFL success that you would want to see. Brian Dable has coached a top offense in the NFL, right? Robert Saleh has coached a top defense in the NFL. Eric Bieniemy has coached a a top offense in the NFL. Joe Brady's offense wasn't that good this year. So, and yeah, I said that Devin 99 in my video. He has that Joe Brady has the potential to be that next Sean McVay, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I want to see more. I'm not willing to swing for the fences for Sean McVay because more likely than not, you're gonna get Hugh Jackson. Like it's just I don't think the risk on Joe Brady is worth the reward. And the reward is incredibly high. I mean, the reward is the next Sean McVay. I think that's the best comparison you can look at, but you know, how often do teams hit on that Sean McVay and how often do they, miss? How often do they, get Sean McVay and they go to the playoffs and they go to the Super Bowl and they have this great, great team that they can just take over and walk into the playoffs with? And how often does a team look for Sean McVay, but they end up with the opposite? They end up with a guy that's not ready. They end up with a guy who, doesn't know what he's doing. They end up with a guy that doesn't have proven success. Like it just Joe Brady for me, I'd like to see one more year out of Brady before I can say yay or nay. One Pride 40 says I'm with you on Bieniemy. Yeah, I mean like it's just if I knew what percentage of the play calling and the play designing was Andy Reid and what percent was Eric Bieniemy, I would feel a lot more comfortable with it. But I don't know, right? It's I mean a collaborative effort on everything, but how much of the collaboration is Andy Reid being smart and how much of it is, Eric Bieniemy being smart. I just think it's different. Well, the Colts are I think they're seizing momentum just a little bit. I think Dable how to the Chargers. I think you're probably saying go to the Chargers. I think Dable would be good. I think him. Obviously, we've all seen what he can do with Josh Allen. I think him and Justin Herbert would be deadly together. I think from that standpoint, I think that makes a lot of sense. The Chargers want Jason Garrett. Is that true? Oh, what a throw! What a play! Oh my goodness. Um, is that true that the Chargers want Jason Garrett? Because that would be really funny. I mean, Jason Garrett is just an average coach, but you know what? He does what he does. He gets paid, he gets money. Like can't fault the guy for it. Stephon Diggs having another great day. Again, I just think that the Bills are so explosive as an offense. So explosive. What do we think of today? Josh Allen drops back. Oh, that's not a great throw. But I do think Dable to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. I've seen a lot of people saying they think Jason Garrett can develop Justin Herbert. I mean, meh, like, what quarterback did he really develop though? Like, he was in Dallas for a long time. He had Tony Romo, who was solid. He had Dak Prescott, who's very, very good. Um, not $40 million good, but you have Dak Prescott, who's a solid quarterback. You have who in he's in New York now. You got Daniel Jones, who wasn't a particularly great quarterback. Like, what quarterback has Jason Garrett really developed? Whereas you look at Brian Dable, he literally just developed and is continuing to develop Josh Allen, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So from that standpoint, I think Dable makes more sense. I went on Texans fan page and started clowning them. Hey, I think as Lions fans, we have the ability to do that because we know what it's like and we've gone through it. So I think if you're a team that hasn't gone through, a Matt Patricia, I think that you don't have a lot of room to talk. But as Lions fans, we've gone through enough that it's where I think we're allowed to clown just a little bit. Oh no. He's trying to do too much. Josh Allen just tried to make a play when he should have just eaten the sack. Wow. Bro, what is that? Like a 30-yard sack? Wow. Oh, that looks. Oh, that ankle not looking good. What a play by the offensive lineman, though. Oh, you're right. I definitely wouldn't get Jason Garrett. I mean, some people do what they want to do. I've never been a fan of Jason Garrett, but if people keep hiring Patriot coordinators, so you know, I guess it's not always a perfect decision. 23-yard sick. I mean, that's crazy, bro. That's wild. Um, who would you compare Micah Parsons to? Um, who would I compare Micah Parsons to? Trying to think of a line because Micah Parsons can kind of do everything, right? I mean, he can cover relatively well. He can rush the passer relatively well. He gets a lot of tackles. He gets a lot of tackles for loss. Um, Low key, he kind of reminds me of Darius Leonard a little bit, just from that, from the standpoint that he makes plays everywhere. He can rush the passer and get you sacks. He's really good at ripping the ball out and forcing fumbles. He's really solid in coverage. Like it, I think he's very good at everything, and especially in a linebacking core where, with the way they've been playing, it's just I just think Micah Parsons fits this team the best. I think Jared Davis has a lot of athletic potential, but I think Micah Parsons is far more proven and far more effective than anything Jared Davis has done. So I think if I had to compare Micah Parsons to somebody, it would be Darius Leonard. But that's just me. And again, I'm working on something with Micah Parsons right now. That should be out probably tomorrow. Maybe today, but more likely tomorrow. So yeah, but I think he's a good player. Micah Parsons is a generational talent, and I asked you because I see Darius there on TV. That's funny, Devin. Oh, that's funny, man. But like, I see a lot of comparisons. And I see a lot of similarities between them. And I mean, if we could get anything close to Darius Leonard, I would take that at number 7. Um, but yeah, genuinely, I think he's a. I don't know if I'd say generational talent because I think that term is used a little loosely, but I do think he's the best defensive player from the class, and I think he obviously has the potential to be a top defensive player in the NFL for a long, long time. Lions fans were so high on Isaiah Simmons. I was too, but I think Micah Parsons. I don't. I don't know if Micah Parsons is a better football player, but I think he's a better linebacker because of the fact that Isaiah Simmons played so much safety and he played so many different positions. I think Micah Parsons is much more polished as a prospect because he doesn't play safety. I think he kind of has more experience playing purely linebacker, which is where Simmons does play in the NFL, and obviously Simmons is still good. But I think with Micah Parsons playing like strictly linebacker, he's more polished at that one position. Um, so I don't know if it's so much that Micah Parsons is better, more so than he's just more polished than Isaiah Simmons was when Isaiah came out. I love Darius Leonard. I think he's super underrated. Darius Leonard is super underrated. Darius Leonard is incredibly underrated. I mean, he's like the most efficient linebacker ever. So I mean, I'm not telling you he's the best linebacker to ever play, but he's definitely up there. Devin Iyer says, I would say generational athlete 6'3", 250 with 4.4 speed. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, but generational talent means like once a generation. Like Chase Young was a generational talent. Myles Garrett was a generational talent. Um, who else? Like I feel like every draft class, there's people that go, he's a generational talent, but that's just not the case. I mean, he's very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's bad, but I feel like the term generational talent is used a little sparingly. Van Der Esch is similar to Darius Leonard if he can stay healthy. Yeah. I think Van Der Esch is good. He had a very good rookie season. I feel like we haven't heard a lot about Van Der Esch. Probably like you said, one pride because he can't stay healthy. But yeah, I like Collins better than Parkins. You mean Zaven Collins from Tulsa, the linebacker, or Jamie Collins who's on the team? Because I've been looking at both. Um, but I definitely take Micah Parsons over Jamie Collins. I think Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the draft. And if he's available, we better take him. I think Jamie Collins just misses way too many tackles for me. He's so inconsistent and misses so many tackles that it's hard for me to be super high on Jamie Collins. I want to as well. I really want to like Jamie Collins, but he just gives me so much to dislike. He just gives me so much to dislike. But everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Let's see. I mean, this is a good game. This is a fun game. 2-minute drill. We'll see if anything exciting could happen in the last 2 minutes. uh, Wait. Oh, he wasn't fine. I was like, "There's no way." Collins is good. There's a lot of good linebackers in this draft, but there's a reason Micah Parsons is a top 5 prospect, and Collins is a late first. Yeah. No, I don't think it's because Penn State's a more recognizable school. I think it's because Micah Parsons is an elite talent. And I would like Zaven Collins a ton. Don't get me wrong. If we got Zaven Collins, I mean that would be a very good linebacker to pick up as well. But I watched Zaven Collins, I've watched Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons in the last year that he played, only played in like 75% of snaps and still put up ridiculous numbers in the Big Ten. Like he was rotated around and rotated out of the lineup numerous times and still had stupid numbers. So I mean, I think Penn State is. I mean, it's obviously a bigger school, but it's also facing better talent every year. Like he played Ohio State. He played, Memphis, who was a top team last year or when he was playing. Like they played better talent, and he showed up bigger in bigger moments. So I like Micah Parsons, but I do like Zaven Collins a lot. If Micah Parsons is maybe off the board, and we could maybe get Zaven Collins in the second, I do think that could be potential. I do like that scenario as well. If that's the case, Trey Lance wouldn't be ranked higher than the Alabama QB and the Florida QB. I don't look much into the school. I mean, I don't like to look at the school as a history, right? Because I mean, if you look at, I mean, a lot of schools, you might not find the greatest record of quarterbacks, right? I mean, where do a majority of NFL quarterbacks come from? I mean, you got Stafford's from Georgia. You have Aaron Rodgers who's from Cal. You have what? Kirk Cousins is from Minnesota. Mitch Trubisky's from North Carolina. You got, in well, let's say the Bills division, you have Josh Allen from Wyoming, Tua from Alabama, you got Cam Newton from Auburn, you have guys from USC. Like I feel like for quarterbacks especially, it's like I can't think of a quarterback university per se. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but I feel like especially at the quarterback position and for a lot of positions, there's not necessarily one school that is the greatest or that you have to go to if you want to be a quarterback. Jeremiah Owosu Koromoa, Micah Parsons, Dylan Moses, Zayvon Collins. I'll take any of them the way this. I'll take any of those guys. Yeah, I think Jeremiah Owosu Koromoa is very good. I love Micah Parsons. He's my number one. I really like Dylan Moses. I really like Zayvon Collins. I think those two are my 2A and 2B. I think Jeremiah Orowosu Koromoa is a very good player. I just don't want to say his name a whole lot. I don't really want to repeat his name over and over again during the season. But I like him a lot as well. Let's go Colts, shock the world, old man Rivers. Then why take Parsons? Because Parsons is the best player. He's the best defensive player in the draft. And with the defense we have, you got to take the best defensive player in the draft. And plus, those four linebackers, they might not be there come our second round pick. I know Moses won't. I know Parsons won't. Jeremiah Owosu might. Zayvon Collins might. But all four of those guys might be gone by the time we get to our second round pick. Oh, what a play by Tre'Davious White. But yeah, I mean, why take Parsons? Because he's the best defensive player in the draft. I'm drafting safety before linebacker. But the problem is with that, if your linebackers and if your front seven don't get any pressure, your safeties get exposed anyway. Like if you don't have a front seven with pass rush, if you don't have good linebacking play, if you can't get pressure on the quarterback from either your linebackers or your defensive line, your safeties look worse than they actually are. And I actually think you can get safeties relatively later in the draft than you can get linebackers. We talked about those four linebackers that might go in the first round. You have Paris Ford, who I think is an incredible an incredible safety. Oh, wait, did he just fumble? I'll get back to that thought in just a second. We'll finish that thought. Oh no. Was he down? I was kind of looking at chat. But I like Andre Cisco. He's incredible. Andre Cisco is an incredible player out of Syracuse. Oh, he was not down. He wasn't down, Devin. But I like Andre Cisco. I like Paris Ford a lot. I think Richard LeCounte from Georgia's pretty decent. Um, at that point, I challenge the play. If I'm the Bills coach, I'm just throwing the challenge flag because you get a timeout either way. I think that's out because he's up right there before anybody touches him, and I'm pretty sure that ball's out. We can finish our linebackers talk in a second, but I really want to see how this plays out.
Touchdown by contact, in my opinion, with any body part down that would have put him down there. And then as he is being tackled, to me, the ball comes loose prior to him, or a body part hitting the ground, which would have put him down.
There it is. There's the review. Kirk Cousins is from MSU. Yep.
Jarred it loose. Tre'Davious White on the recovery. The initial hit by Poyer. And you're 100% right, Charles.
Come on, Buffalo. Release him instantly.
The officials take a look at this.
Hey.
And what Gene said is where I was going on that. He didn't give himself up. See, if you catch the ball, he just stays on the ground like that.
Indy wishes they had Stafford. Indy does. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that would like to have Stafford. I think there's a lot of teams. What about Jabril Cox? I mean, I don't know a lot about Jabril Cox. I haven't looked at him a ton. I've heard some good things about him for sure, but I'd have to do more research on him. But I think he's pretty good. I think Jabril Cox, from what I've heard and from the little, the small bits that I've seen, I like him. I like him a bit. Yeah. I think there's some potential there for sure.
28 seconds on the clock. Frank Reich waiting for the word from Brad Allen. Sean McDermott, same situation.
So I'm going to take notes.
Gene, what's the discussion right now? I think the other piece that you're looking at too is Poyer's hand.
Underrated.
As Zach is trying to get up. If any body part is down, and Pascal's knee is down, if anyone is touching him.
Do you ever plan on doing skits? I don't have the acting skill to do skits. I'm not an actor. I'm not gonna lie. I hope these refs are trash and call him down. We'll see. He's not down, but he's not down. Will I ever do skits? I don't think so. Like I said, I'm not an actor. I can't act very well. I wouldn't be very good at skits. I'll leave that to Joseph Dion. I think he's hilarious. I think he's really good at those. If Dion asked me to do a skit with him, I would do a skit with him. If he asked me to be on it, if he asked me to, feature in one of his skits, I would do it. I think I would be fun. I think that could be funny, but I don't think I'm going to just do a skit all by myself. One Pride says he's taking a QB first. Again, I think it all depends on who's on the board. At least for me, it does. Dealing with Dion. Like I said, if y'all want to hit up Dion on his Instagram or on his Twitter and, request that, we could get that done. But I'm not going to do one by myself. Too close, not enough evidence. He's down. Come on. We'll see. What was the call on the field? Was he down by contact? I would assume that was the call based on what play they ran. Oh, that's why he didn't challenge it, is because you can't, obviously. I'm an idiot. This is the game right here, pretty much. Well, not pretty much. This is the game right here. We'll see. It's a close one, I'll give you. I think there's... All right, it's in. Oh. Oh. That was very close. That does give Buffalo their timeout back, though. Imagine if Rivers throws a pick right here anyway. Imagine they go through all that and all the stress, and then they're just yeah. Old man Rivers is about to shock the world. All they need is 15 yards for field goal range, and then the game goes into overtime. We'll be seeing. No busted coverages now, though. Buffalo can't afford it. We're not gonna lie, Buffalo has not played quite as good as I thought they might. Well, that's a good stop. That was very good, but he got out, so yeah, it might. We'll see what happens. I like Michael Pittman, man. I wish we could have drafted him, but obviously we did not. What? Huh. Huh. Philip Rivers ain't happy. Huh. It's an interesting one. We'll see what happens. Game on the line. Hey, I mean, he got the timeout off, yeah. Rivers ain't happy. I think Fields will be a dog in the league. I got told Tua was better than him. If Justin Fields is way better than Tua Tagovailoa. Justin Fields was more efficient in college, and I think Justin Fields will be much better in the NFL. If Parsons and Zach Wilson or Fields are still there, who would you take? If all three of them are there, see, that makes it tough. Ooh, because I love Micah Parsons. I want Micah Parsons so badly, and I've sold myself on Micah Parsons so much. But if Justin Fields is there at 7, I don't see how you can pass on that. For me, I don't think the Lions need to force a quarterback. But if Justin Fields somehow, some way falls to 7, I have to take Justin Fields. You have to. I don't think there's any way or form, or I don't think there's anything you can say that makes it a bad decision to draft Fields if he's there. Well, Lawrence wasn't there in the scenario, I don't believe. Oh, you're talking about Devin 99. I mean, the whole Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Field things. I think it depends on what system you want to run in the NFL. I think is how it goes in that one. Fields reminds me. To me, I see the Kyler Murray thing because they're both mobile quarterbacks. But for me, hold on, I'll get back to that. Final play of the game: Phillip Rivers, old man Rivers, and there's Buffalo with the victory. So the Buffalo Bills win the football game. That's very cool. As far as Fields and Kyler Murray, I think Kyler Murray is much more agile and quick than Justin Fields, but I think Justin Fields, I think he's a much more powerful runner. And in that way, he reminds me more of a prime Cam Newton than he does Kyler Murray, just because I think size-wise and the way that they run the football, I think that he is far more similar to Cam Newton in that way than he is to Kyler Murray. I don't know. Wow, that's a stretch. This one part. I don't know what you're talking about, particularly, but I don't know if I'd take Justin Fields over Lawrence, but I think, especially with the performance he just had in the playoffs and the performance, and hopefully if he has a good performance in the Natty, I think you could make a case. I think you can. I think you could definitely make the case for Fields. I think Fields, especially in the playoff game, showed a lot of. I think he showed a lot of poise. He showed he can read defenses very well and very quickly and very efficiently. Which I thought he was much better at that this time than or I thought he was much better at that in last Saturday's game, opposed to the rest of his career. But I think he's improving. I think he's getting better. And with that being said, I guess that's what the final thing we're going to talk about. Good game, right down to the end. Yeah, very, very fun playoff game. Do you think Burrow's career shadows Stafford? I see a lot of similarities. I do. I see a lot of similarities between the two. Um, it'll all come down really to who is Burrow's GM, who is Burrow's head coach, and who builds the team around him. So I'm taking Titans over the Ravens. I take Ravens over Titans, but that's just my opinion. So, well, that being said, that's all I got for you guys. I mean, fun game, fun stretch, fun AFC wildcard game, fun way to kick off the playoffs. But that's all I got for you guys right now. I think next Saturday, or probably Sunday, actually, we'll be going a Lions talk. I can invite some of you guys on if you want to be on. I'll invite some other people on just to talk some Lions, kind of argue, kind of do what we're doing here. But we can obviously go a little bit more in depth, obviously go a little bit more and have a little bit more prepared to talk about. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys. Thank y'all for coming out. Thank y'all for watching the playoff stream with me. I'll see y'all tomorrow in tomorrow's video. I have a Micah Parsons prospect breakdown coming out either today or tomorrow. So y'all will see that when that video comes up. But with all that being said, thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate all of you for being here. And I'll see y'all tomorrow with more content. Thank y'all for coming out and watching.